My Marvel superhero girlfriend. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 251. Nervous Cat, Dress Kara. Master, Master. A familiar voice called nearby, and Nian gradually regained consciousness. He blearily opened his eyes, only to be greeted by Wanda's small face. Soft, fair, and adorable. However, Wanda's face was filled with worry, her pale red eyes misting with tears, as if she were on the verge of tears. Who bullied my maid? Upon seeing Nian awake, Wanda exclaimed in surprise, Master, are you okay? I should be fine. What happened to me? Nian felt his mind fuzzy, unable to recall many things. He mumbled, Master, have you forgotten? You just participated in that magic show and disappeared into that magic wardrobe. Wanda's reminder finally brought Nian back to mind. He had been teleported to the Gotham train station, then transported back via a dimensional necklace, encountering Zatanna in the magic wardrobe. From her, he learned something about Raven. And then, he fell asleep? No, I was hit by some magical attack. Nian thought carefully, a strange image flickering through his mind. Ravens carrying a dark, evil aura, vines covered in barbs and poison, indestructible white spider webs, a long red cloth falling like a meteor, and a woman in a magician's attire. It was like a dream, yet remarkably real. Wanda, were you helping me just now? Nian asked, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes, looking at the little Wanda before him. Huh? I don't know. Wanda blinked blankly and whispered, I just saw the little raven perched on the glass lamp in the banquet hall suddenly start cawing wildly, so I used the headband you gave me to tie it up. The headband was the second magical artifact Nian had brought back from the New York sanctuary. It resembled a red cloth and was currently used by Wanda as a hair tie. You did well. Nian patted Wanda's head, first smiling in praise, then solemnly inquired, where's that raven now? Having experienced being invaded by the other party's power, he had already understood that the raven-like being was terrifying. Even the magic levitation cloak might not be able to protect against its special attacks. Because the attacks targeted the soul and spirit, not physical blows, even his iron body was somewhat unable to cope. It escaped. Wanda blushed slightly after being patted on the head. She glanced around shyly and replied, not long after I bound its body with a headband, it suddenly broke free and fled toward the main hall balcony. That's good. Nian breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to continue entangled with such an ominous presence. He looked around and found himself in a small hotel room. He was lying on the largest lounge sofa. Next to him were used magic props and a dressing table. This was the lounge for the banquet performers. Now, only Nian and Wanda, the newly awakened master and servant, were left inside. Where is the female magician? Nian asked. Wanda shook her head and said, when I entered the backstage lounge, I only found you, master, unconscious on the sofa. I didn't see any magicians or anyone else. Her phone lit up in her pocket, and the AI Alice promptly asked, do you want me to investigate, master? Yes, Nian nodded. Tonight, Zatanna felt like someone he'd met in a dream. Mysterious and eerie. However, if she were truly a magician, her real-life identity should be easy to uncover. Nian and Wanda emerged from the backstage lounge. Guests were also seen in groups of 3 or 4 in the hallway, heading towards the main entrance on the first floor of the 5-star hotel. Apparently, tonight's banquet had concluded and was disbanding. Although Wayne Bruce, the organizer and head of the Wayne Group, had stood him up as usual, the guests had become accustomed to it. Being stood up by Wayne Bruce was perfectly normal, wasn't it? By the way, hadn't Kara, who was out on a mission, returned yet? This thought suddenly occurred to Nian. After all, with half the Justice League making an appearance, this was a massive event. Problems are usually resolved quickly, but if they can't be solved quickly, it means the situation is extremely complex. Lex Luthor, wouldn't he have any difficult helpers? Nian pondered this as he led Wanda, the Scarlet Maid, toward the hotel entrance. But then, Guan Luo's mind suddenly rang out, Nian, It's appeared. That third ominous energy exists. What? Nian's mind was startled, and he stopped dead in his tracks. Is this the end? It's right behind you, Guanluo said. Tap, tap. In the hallway, the sound of high heels clacking the floorboards echoed. A figure in a white, strapless, slit-top dress naturally brushed past Nian and also headed out the hotel entrance. Her black hair was elegantly styled, a pearl necklace adorned her pristine neck, jeweled earrings dangling from her ears sparkled, and a handbag hung from her slender, fair wrist. Her face was beautiful, her figure impressive, and her demeanor refined, like a lady of noble birth. Nian was stunned, completely frozen in place. He actually knew this person. The teacher who had awakened the cat-like beast ability in high school and had played games with him, Felicia Hardy. The problem was, when she passed by him just now, she didn't react at all. Besides, Felicia had a striking head of long silver-white hair, while the other person's hair was black. Master, what's wrong? Wanda noticed something was wrong and asked quietly, looking at the slender back of the woman in front of her. Follow her and see. Nian signaled to Wanda with his eyes and silently followed the woman's pace. Gotham. In front of a 5-star hotel. Several luxury cars were parked in front of the entrance. Seeing the woman, handbag in hand, step out, some gentlemen immediately waved or opened their car doors, gesturing, Ms. Selena, I'll take you home. Take my car. I'm a good driver. My car is great. It won't be bumpy at all. Faced with the enthusiastic invitations of several upper-class gentlemen, the woman known as Selena shook her head gently, gracefully and politely declining. Thank you, everyone. Gotham is beautiful tonight. I'd like to take a walk. No need for a ride. No problem. That's a shame. Next time, Miss Selena, you're attending a party, remember to let me know. I'm always available to pick you up. The gentleman's eyes dimmed slightly, and they politely said goodbye and drove away. Selena smiled and nodded in response. After the luxury cars had left the hotel entrance, she walked out, seemingly strolling casually through the streets, constantly avoiding public security cameras. Selena finally turned into a deserted alley. The darkness was unlit, and Selena reached a corner and lifted the black cloth covering it, revealing a modified black motorcycle. Selena opened the small handbag she had been carrying, revealing several priceless pieces of jewelry. She removed her hair ornaments, earrings, and pearl necklace, stuffed them into the handbag, and placed it under the motorcycle seat. Her black hair flowed freely. Her gorgeous long dress dropped, revealing a bodysuit. Selena removed her high heels, discarded them along with the dress into a nearby trash can, and donned comfortable boots. Her movements were quick and swift, the transformation complete in half a minute. Selena was about to put on her helmet when, as if sensing something, she glanced sharply out of the alley. Come out. In response, 2 figures entered the alley, a young man in his early 20s and a young girl in a dress. Aren't they Nian and Wanda? If we're discovered, there's nothing we can do. Nian shrugged and walked forward. In fact, Nian can definitely keep peeping at the other person without the other person noticing. But, there's no need for that. There's something he wants to confirm in person. Did you all see it? Selena glanced at Nian and Wanda, and seeing that they were 2 children, she just smiled and didn't show much vigilance. Nian asked seriously, what do you mean by seeing? The jewelry that was stolen from the party and hidden in the bag, or did you change clothes? Stealing is not good. Wanda, who was following behind him, whispered. Sneaking at my sister changing clothes, it's so embarrassing. Selena was neither angry nor caring. She looked at Nian and Wanda, chuckled and waved her hand and said, good children, you shouldn't be hanging around outside so late. Go home and go to bed early. Aren't you afraid that I will call the police to arrest you? Nian said. It's a wonder they caught me. Selena smiled confidently. Right in front of Nian, she zipped up her tights, which she hadn't even put on yet, covering her rounded breasts. She had already deleted all the hotel's security footage. Selena picked up the black metal helmet from the motorcycle. I have a question. Nian stared at her intently. Excuse me, do you know me? What's the question? Little brother, this is my first time meeting you, and you're my type. Selena glanced at Nian, put on the helmet, and mounted the motorcycle, lowering herself slightly. Her torso, clasped in a tight black leather jacket, formed a graceful S-curve from back to legs, her hips prominent on the seat. Don't worry, if you don't report me, I won't steal from your house. With these words, Selena started the modified motorcycle. With a roar of the engine, the motorcycle drifted in place, passing Nian and Wanda. Nian stood still, not allowing Wanda to make a move, allowing the person to ride out of the alley. He watched the motorcycle disappear into the street outside. Nian muttered to himself, "It's her. What the hell is going on?" After what had just happened, Nian had confirmed that the person looked exactly like his class's assistant instructor, Felicia. No, they were the same person. After all, even twins couldn't have identical figures. If there was a difference, there was only one: their hair color. Felicia had silver hair, while Selena had black hair. But the length and details were identical. Nian was almost certain they were the same person. But, strangely, the person didn't recognize him. It wasn't a disguise. If it was Felicia Hardy, there was no need for a disguise. He knew her greater secret. Identical person, but different personality. Nian thought of a possibility, and it was easy to verify it. Just wait until tomorrow's class and see the real Felicia. Late Sunday night. Wayne Manor. Ding dong. A phone chimed, signaling a message. In a guest room, Nian, sleeping in bed, suddenly opened his eyes. He waved, and a cape floating near the wardrobe flew forward, draping itself over the young man. He reached one of the manor's rooftops alone. Nian spotted a young woman with dark blonde hair standing gracefully beside the railing in a white dress, her hair and white gown swaying gently in the night breeze. "You're back," Nian smiled as he approached. The dressed woman turned, wordlessly throwing herself into the young man's arms, as if seeking warmth, perhaps comfort. "Did your operation fail?" Nian seemed to sense something. Kara, in her dress, nodded dejectedly, her face buried in Nian's embrace. "Tell me, what happened?" Nian narrowed his eyes. He had suspected the Justice League's operation would fail, but the reality of it still surprised him. With Supergirl and Batman leading the charge, they had failed? The adversaries Lex Luthor encountered overseas exceeded Bruce and I's expectations. Kara whispered, not holding back. Nian soon learned the reason for the Justice League's failure tonight. Lex Luthor, as a mere mortal, naturally posed no threat in terms of combat power. It was primarily the extraordinary individuals he encountered tonight, one of whom was Deathstroke, a veteran villain who even Batman found vexing and difficult. The other was a woman, never seen before, whose identity remained unknown. Her powerful psychic abilities hindered Kara, then Supergirl. Before more Justice League members arrived, Lex Luthor and the others had already evacuated the scene. To paraphrase Batman, without further reinforcements, the two of them would likely have been wiped out, at least right there. This wasn't an exaggeration at all. "Senior, do you think I'm useless?" Kara puffed out her cheeks and pouted. "It's not your fault. You didn't gain nothing. At least, you learned some intel about the enemy." Nian embraced the girl, paused, and teased, "Besides, you're very useful." "What are you useful for?" Kara was stunned for a moment, then her delicate face quickly flushed, realizing that this was the last night of the weekend. There was something more important than dealing with a supervillain. "Senior, does this look good on me?" Frustrated, Kara pondered for a moment, her eyelashes fluttering slightly, and she raised her eyes shyly. Nian lowered his gaze, following the girl's sweet and beautiful face down to her delicate collarbone, draped in dark blonde hair. Her mature, gorgeous little dress wrapped around her well-developed figure, and her slender feet gently stepped on light-colored high heels. "Try it and you'll know if it works," Nian said. Chapter 252, Villain Alliance, Catwoman and Black Cat. "Why won't you let me kill Batman?" A crescent moon peeked out from beneath the clouds at dawn, its faint silver glow shimmering across the ocean. Beyond American territory, 1,000 meters beneath the sea, a specially modified submarine drifted in the dark, deep waters. The submarine's spacious cabin, transformed into a luxurious conference room, echoed a voice tinged with disapproval and indifference. "Just now, I almost cut off Batman's head." "Of course, Deathstroke, I naturally believe you can do it." His hair was a mess, unconventional, and he wore a neatly tailored suit, a high-end tie, and brand-new leather shoes. Sitting on a leather sofa, the gentleman, resembling a CEO, smiled as he responded. The man known as Deathstroke was a weathered, middle-aged man with a frosted beard and a black eye patch, seemingly covering his right eye. His tall, muscular frame was clad in a suit of red and black armor that gleamed with a cold, metallic sheen under the light. He wore double pistol holsters at his waist and 2 samurai swords slung across his back. He stood upright in the cabin, a murderous aura lingering within him, his left eye expressionless. Deathstroke said calmly, "I demand an explanation. Otherwise, even if you are my employer, I will chop off your head right here." Hearing his words, a blonde woman in a diamond-shimmering dress couldn't help but step forward, her beautiful eyes warily gazing at Deathstroke, but was quickly stopped by a gentleman calmly sitting on the sofa, waving him away. "Okay, okay." Lex Luthor spread his hands, his lips curled up, not fearing. Instead, he chuckled, "Don't you think killing Batman like that is boring?" "Boring?" Deathstroke looked at him indifferently. "When a person dies, nothing really matters. Don't you already know? Batman's true identity, Bruce Wayne. If you want to kill him, you can go to Gotham anytime. I won't stop you." Lex Luthor took an elegant sip of red wine and smiled. "But don't you think, after battling him for so many years, it's boring to just kill him outright? It's better to use absolute power and influence to crush his strength and confidence, making him lose his will and become a stray dog. You, a scheming man, would also talk about using absolute power and confronting the enemy head-on." Deathstroke scoffed. However, if it were any other target, he wouldn't fall for it. He would just kill him and be done with it. But if it was Batman, Deathstroke was actually quite interested. Lex Luthor continued, "Aren't they forming the Justice League? We can create one too. I've already got a name for it, Destruction. Just the rest of us." Deathstroke glanced at the few people in the luxurious cabin. "Of course not just us." Lex Luthor was about to say something else, but then a vibration came from the submarine he was in. It wasn't like the turbulence of the sea, but more like someone striking the submarine from outside. "What the hell?" Deathstroke narrowed his eyes. Forget about striking a massive submarine, the submarine itself was 1,000 meters deep. The immense pressure was enough to crush an ordinary person. Lex Luthor, instead of being surprised, smiled and said, "Another new member has arrived." A night passed. And so did the happy, yet brief, weekend. The next day, Nian and Kara both missed morning classes and didn't show up at high school until afternoon class. Naturally, this earned them a scolding from Instructor Roth. But by now, Nian and Instructor Roth were already familiar with each other. Instructor Roth asked them to explain their absence and then sent them back to class. Nian yawned and headed back to the classroom. Admittedly, the dress did increase his combat power and attack speed. Unfortunately, it quickly disappeared. After all, in his out-of-control Kryptonian Superman mode, ordinary objects, aside from Supergirl Kara herself, couldn't withstand his touch. Even Gotham's skies lost a cloud last night, and the mountains outside lost half a peak. Nian hesitated to use his levitation cloak. If it broke, it would be embarrassing if the Ancient One saw him. However, this wasn't a sustainable solution in the long run. Nian had almost perfected his demigod mode, having practiced with his aunt for over 2 weeks. He wondered how many times it would take to fully master Kryptonian Superman mode. A thought struck Nian. Oh, right, maybe in the devouring dimension, where there was a planet created by Starro. But, what kind of bed could withstand the use of 2 supermen? Nian was pondering this when a graceful figure in a conservative long shirt and jeans approached him in the hallway of the school building. The other woman also noticed him. As she turned away from that cold, beautiful face, she seemed to snort inwardly, walking away as if she didn't want to pay any attention to him. Nian's eyes twitched. Last time, she had acted as if nothing had happened, feigning a gentle teacher and trying to get close to him. This time, she wore a hint of disgust directly on her face. Was this the nature of a cat? It changed from day to day, depending on its mood. But she still held a grudge for him grabbing the ball, that was certain. This was Felicia Hardy. The real Felicia. "Teacher Felicia," Nian said. "What's up?" Felicia paused, glancing at Nian uncomfortably, not wanting to talk. "If you're trying to humiliate me, I'm not in the mood to play with you today." "Where were you yesterday?" Nian asked. "Where I am is none of your business." Felicia snorted and walked away. Her long, snow-white hair fluttered as she passed Nian. Nian was lost in thought. She clearly didn't know he'd met her in Gotham the night before. It was as if the female thief encountered last night wasn't the current Felicia. Anyone else might have mistaken them for twins. The problem was, Nian noticed through his spider sense that Felicia's neck bore a faint red mark from a pearl necklace. A split personality? After that night, had Felicia not only undergone physical changes, but also mental ones? Normally reserved and introverted, Felicia had become a bit calculating and scheming after her awakening. The female thief encountered yesterday was bold and unrestrained, with exceptionally skilled thievery. As Felicia, her hair was snow white; as the thief, it was black. Felicia and the female thief clearly had separate memories. So, the female thief had indeed met Nian for the first time yesterday, and she had even openly admitted to liking his type. Felicia, on the other hand, had no recollection of ever meeting him over the weekend, and expressed a dislike for him since their previous falling out. Chapter 253 Supergirl wants to be with Gwen. Nian sighed. He felt Gotham was truly an ominous place. Just one weekend trip and he'd already encountered all sorts of bizarre people and situations. There were more villains than in New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles combined, and they were even stranger. And before that, Nian had already dealt with all the other villains he'd encountered. Only with Gotham City's villains, there was always a sense of déjà vu. This time, while he'd taken down some of the local Gotham villains targeting Supergirl, Lex Luthor, the mastermind, remained elusive. Then there was the sinister and mysterious Raven, the strange female archaeologist. No wonder the legend of Batman had persisted in Gotham for over a decade. There simply wasn't enough villains to catch. Nian returned to the classroom door and reported into the room where class was currently taking place. He was surprised to find a teacher standing at the podium he had never seen before. He had short, slightly messy, slightly curly hair, and was not tall. He wore a simple technical style shirt and overalls, and wore glasses, looking rather demure and refined. He was in his 30s or 40s, teaching a physics class. What surprised Nian was that every student in the classroom sat properly, showing respect and attentive listening. "This is Nian, the student who hasn't arrived yet, right? Please come in." The male teacher glanced at Nian at the door and gently explained, "I'm the new physics professor. I'll occasionally teach your physics class and lead you in physics experiments. My name is Robert Bruce Banner." "Thank you for meeting you, Mr. Banner." Nian nodded subconsciously and walked towards his seat. Halfway there, he suddenly realized where he had heard the name Banner before. That's right. A few years ago, the former world-renowned physicist who had appeared in newspapers many times. Now one of the Avengers, the superhero, the Hulk. The Hulk represents a deterrent force, having annihilated countless alien legions in the Battle of New York. Of course, Dr. Banner's identity as the Hulk was known only to very few. Nian also learned about this incidentally when Alice was stealing SHIELD intelligence. The Avengers were founded by SHIELD. Director Nick Fury and Iron Man. The first roster of heroes included Captain America, the Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. Thor later joined. The Hulk was a top-tier fighter specially recruited by Iron Man, while the other three were personally arranged by Nick Fury. Putting aside his identity as the Hulk, a world-renowned physicist with countless doctoral degrees teaching in a high school, isn't that a bit extravagant? Nian returned to his seat, his spider sense instantly intertwining with another familiar and similar spider sense in the classroom, like a static web. Nian glanced sideways and noticed Gwen, not far away, winking at him and sticking out her tongue. "Did you pull her here?" Nian suddenly remembered that Gwen was currently interning with the Avengers. "Gwen, well, not bad, huh? Dr. Banner, he's just been bored at Avengers headquarters and wants to get back to his professorial life, so I'm recommending him to our school as an honorary professor. You're quite capable." Nian secretly gave him a thumbs up. The two, sitting in separate classroom seats, didn't whisper to each other, but instead communicated through their shared spider sense. This was similar to telekinesis, yet the principles of communication were completely different. Their spider senses were like an invisible spider web, interwoven throughout the vast classroom. Simply by tugging at those few invisible threads, they could connect with the other person and sense their own emotions and intentions. It was more like the clashing of ants' antennae, something only possible between two of the same species, with highly compatible spider senses. This was Nian and Gwen's unique method of communication. Nian, SHIELD, and the Avengers actually let him leave New York on his own. Sensing Nian's surprise, Gwen explained, "Dr. Banner has pretty good control over his emotions now. Letting him out to relax will also be good for his transitions and coordination with the Hulk. Besides, Dr. Banner is just a figurehead. He's got a lot of fuss with the Avengers, so he only comes to school occasionally when he has time. I see. Nian nodded. Gwen probably had another consideration. In this school, if Dr. Banner transforms into the Hulk, he can be contained. With Gwen's spider silk strengthened, the suppression power will be greatly increased. And if things don't work out, there's Kara to back him up. Wait a minute. Nian had a thought. This guy had helped Iron Man develop strategic weapons like the Hulkbuster armor. He was a true technological genius. His newly opened tech company, Future Chronicle, needed exactly that kind of talent. What if he tried to poach him? Nian thought he could try it later. The problem is, if the Avengers or Stark Industries found out, wouldn't they come after him? After class, Dr. Banner cheerfully clutched his books, politely nodding in response to his classmates' greetings, and leisurely returned to his makeshift office. No one could have imagined how terrifying his anger could be. To Nian's surprise, Kara suddenly came to the classroom window and called Gwen out, who followed suit. The two, like sisters, walked arm in arm outside the building, making no attempt to invite Nian along, as if they had a secret they didn't want him to know. These two seemed to be getting along better and better. Nian was speechless. A childhood sweetheart and a drop from the sky? Could he be the extra one? Outside the high school building, on the school's open-air playground. I can't take it anymore. I almost thought I was broken yesterday. Senior Gwen, how did you hold on? Kara patted her chest, a look of relief. Kara, keep your voice down. Gwen's delicate, small face flushed with shame. With incredibly quick reflexes, she glanced around, letting out a sigh when she realized no one was paying attention. Right. Senior, I've inherited your ability, the spider ability, and I can control it perfectly without losing control. Kara's sweet, distressed face then asked curiously, Gwen, are you having a better experience than me? Gwen's face flushed so red that her head practically steamed. My ability combined with yours, wouldn't we be able to control it perfectly? Kara pondered for a moment, her eyes suddenly lighting up. She instinctively said, Senior, next time, should we try it together? Together, try. Gwen's jewel-like eyes widened, her brain froze, as if processing this overly stimulating information. With a bang, a cloud of actual hot steam rose from the short-haired girl's head. Chapter 254 Gwen can't sleep, Nian report. Monday night. Gwen, your hot cocoa. Officer George, freshly returned from the police station, hadn't even taken off his uniform jacket when he expertly brewed a cup of hot cocoa to the perfect temperature and sweetness. A short-haired girl, dressed in a set of pink bunny-patterned pajamas, sat on the sofa, legs crossed, watching TV. Her eyes weren't focused on the screen, but she sat there lost in thought, seemingly lost in thought, oblivious to Officer George's words from the living room. Gwen. It wasn't until Officer George came over, cup in hand, and called for a second time that Gwen finally snapped back to reality. Thank you. Gwen quickly took the cup from Officer George with both hands, took a sip, and then returned to her room in her slippers, hot cocoa in hand. I'm going to bed. Remember to wash up after drinking before going to bed. Officer George stared at his beloved daughter's back in confusion. After Gwen closed the door, he couldn't help but say to Lady Mary, who had just emerged from the bathroom, Honey, have you noticed something a little off about Gwen since she came home from school today? A little bit. She was absent-minded during meals, blushing and mumbling constantly, and frowning in distress. Could she be in love? Lady Mary casually said, wiping her wet hair with a towel. What, in love? Officer George was struck by lightning, stunned by his own doubts. Who is it? I was just saying it casually. Lady Mary shrugged. Until the lights in the living room outside dimmed and silence fell. In the long unlit room, a short-haired girl, lying on her bed, covered in a blanket, opened her eyes. She was hugging a Garfield pillow, her face filled with distress. I can't sleep at all. For the past 2 days, Gwen hadn't been able to sleep. First, Miss Diana unexpectedly asked her out yesterday and asked her earnestly about those things. She asked about details and ideas, leaving Gwen at a loss for words. Then, today, Kara, a junior who was a year younger than her, actually several years older, even made a bold suggestion about trying it together. So, can 3 of us do that together? So, can we share those things privately? Oh, this isn't right. Have times changed so quickly? Gwen pulled on the hood of her bunny pajamas, the blanket covering her blushing face. Puffs of hot steam rose from her forehead. "I'm so sorry for being so naive." Gwen bit her lip, thinking back to Kara's distressed look when she came to school today. "So, can you physically handle that kind of thing? Last time, when I did it myself, it felt so good and relaxing." Gwen's face flushed redder and redder, and then it suddenly occurred to her that this weekend would be her turn to have a date. For no reason, the girl suddenly felt a small sense of anticipation. "Ah, Gwen, you're done." Feeling hopeless, Gwen buried herself completely under the covers, only the pink bunny ears peeking out from under the hood of her nightgown. Washington. Another house. "Auntie, I'm coming in." Nian, like a student taking a report, pushed open the left open door. A dim, warm light and the faint scent of violets greeted him. Nian walked expertly into the room. The occupant of the room, her black hair tucked to her right side, illuminated by the small bedside lamp, her profile, with its perfect, delicate features, was a work of art. Diana was reclining on the bed, her eyes lowered as she read an archaeology book. The only light from her left cast an arc of light on her voluptuous form, wrapped in a gauze nightgown. Rather than the natural sensuality of the mature body, she exuded an elegance and grace. "You went out on a wild weekend. You didn't even come home yesterday, and you're late for school today, too." Diana continued to read, her tone slightly cold. With a harsh tone. However, when his aunt was cold to him, it was often the time when she cared about him the most. Nian knew this. So, Nian closed the door behind him, admitted his mistake very readily, took off his slippers, sat on the bed, and pulled a quilt with a scent of violets. "Did you go on a date? How was it?" Diana's face was calm, and she raised her beautiful eyes to look at him. Nian sighed. "Gotham is really too troublesome, even more troublesome than the last time in the Divine Realm." There was no concealment. Nian recounted all his experiences in Gotham in the past 2 days to his Aunt Diana. This is all commonplace. However, too many things have happened in the past 2 days. After Nian finished speaking, he felt a little dry in the mouth. Diana shook her head slightly, stood up and took out her cup of cold water and handed it to him. After Nian finished drinking the water, Diana took the cup back and handed her the archaeology book she had been reading. "Take a look at this." "This is." Nian took the book, glanced at it briefly, and was immediately stunned. It recorded, in 2008, a team of archaeologists in a mountain range in South America discovered what appeared to be the remains of an ancient lost civilization. There lay a stone statue dedicated to a mysterious witch, along with strange and bizarre runic images, none of which could be found in any known civilization on Earth. Some professional archaeologists even speculated that these might be relics from another world. Then, something even stranger happened. Within a week, the archaeologists on that team died one after another, their cause of death unknown. Only one young intern survived. Her name was Joan Moon. "Auntie, I see you've been keeping an eye on my life in Gotham." Nian put down the archaeology book, his heart warming as he looked at Diana beside him. Before he'd even said anything, his aunt had already begun investigating. "What are your thoughts after reading it?" Diana asked softly. Nian's face was solemn, and he responded thoughtfully, "That team of archaeologists was targeted by that witch, right? It's like a punishment for people who trespass into their own homes." Diana nodded, and her slender and shiny fingers pointed at a name in the book, and continued to ask, "Then why didn't she die?" Kyung Moon was also an archaeologist in the same field. Why was she the only one who survived? Nian suddenly recalled that when he was in Gotham, Guan Luo once said that the other party had an ominous evil energy in his body. The answer is already obvious. Nian took a deep breath and said with certainty, "The unknown witch has no actual concrete form, so she needs a carrier that can move normally in this world, and Kyung Moon is just the right one." Chapter 255, Divergence of Permanent Abilities, must read. Nian had known this for a long time. Some alien cosmic creatures, like symbiotes like venom, have liquid bodies like a pool of water. They cannot survive on their own and can only cling to other organisms. Venom, for example, still has a physical form. However, some special beings lack a true body. They might be concepts infiltrated from another dimension, strange energies that have developed independent consciousness, or the creations of the souls of powerful creatures after undergoing a transformation. Take Wanda's case. After using soul escape to separate from her body, Her soul became a formless alien. Normally, her soul cannot be attacked, but she can use mental or energy-based methods. The raven Nian encountered in Gotham was also one of these strange, formless beings. You can't even see them, yet they can use various abilities to attack you. These beings are very difficult to deal with. After all, their very existence cannot be weak. Most importantly, they are difficult to kill. Physical attacks are ineffective against them, while energy-based methods may have some effect. The only direct and effective method is mental. Of course. This kind of existence is flawed and not perfect. Souls cannot exist independently in this world for too long. Previously, Wanda's soul was separated from her body for too long, and she nearly suffered serious consequences. Therefore, these incorporeal beings either choose a body as a carrier to possess, or they devour the energy of other souls to maintain their eternal state. Nian pondered, that unknown witch needs Joan Moon as a vehicle to operate in this world, so Joan Moon was not killed. I think so too. Diana nodded and whispered, I'm also thinking that Joan Moon's true soul may not have been killed, but rather has reached some kind of balance with the witch who possessed her. Nian pondered, so, she usually continues her archaeological work like an ordinary person, with occasional strange behavior patterns. Nian's eyes were full of approval. As expected of her aunt, she had already deciphered some of Joan Moon's secrets from just a simple account. I'll try to contact her through archaeological means soon, Diana said calmly. Then I'll go too, Nian said. It's just about contacting Joan Moon, not dealing with the witch within her, so the risk isn't too great. Diana, knowing Nian's concern, whispered, if everything goes as we hope, perhaps we can guide her onto the right path. Nian thought for a moment and suggested, and, if you really want to contact Joan Moon, why not try contacting someone else first? You mean that magician? Diana said, as if reading his mind. Yes, Zatanna. Nian felt that among these strange beings, Zatanna was the one who impressed him the most. Zatanna had even tried to rescue him from Raven, and her strange irony magic was well suited to dealing with strange beings like Raven and Joan Moon. Alright, I'll try contacting her first, Diana nodded. Late at night. After discussing Raven, Zatanna, and other matters, Diana's beautiful eyes calmly gazed at Nian beside her. That lady, Poison Ivy. Nian's heart skipped a beat, thinking to himself, I knew I couldn't avoid this. In fact, he had been deliberately avoiding the topic, not discussing Poison Ivy in depth. And, it was truly an accident. Nian blinked innocently, worried that his aunt would be angry. Diana's face remained calm, not angry. Instead, she said seriously, whether it was an accident or not, since you've done it, you must take responsibility for it. She paused, then asked, also, your permanent abilities. Yes, Nian nodded. He pursed his lips and said bluntly, no changes at all. Based on past experience, Nian had gained a perfect steel body from Kara and a perfect spider sense from Gwen. Kara and Gwen also gained immunity to kryptonite weaknesses and enhanced spider silk, respectively. It was a mutually beneficial relationship. However, during the encounter with Poison Ivy, Nian didn't gain any permanent abilities, and her body didn't change at all. For the first time, a divergence in permanent abilities had occurred. Although I didn't gain permanent abilities, I did gain this. Nian raised a finger and tapped his forehead. A faint glow, like a green ivy leaf, shone there. What is that? Diana was slightly surprised. Nian hesitated, as if reluctant to mention it, before finally saying, I can sense her location. If I wanted to, I could even disregard distance and directly strip her of her abilities, even her life. Diana fell silent. Too evil, isn't it? Nian closed his eyes and slowly exhaled. This kind of ability shouldn't even exist. Even if Nian didn't want it. Even if it was just an accident. Now, Nian controlled Poison Ivy's entire being. If he died, Poison Ivy would die with him. Even Nian, the user himself, found it too cruel and merciless. Lord of the Familiar. Nian gradually understood why this ability was called that. If a villain gained this ability, they would surely be the most vicious and ruthless villain. I don't understand why this happened. And, when Poison Ivy left that day, her eyes were filled with gray, as if she were dead. Nian clenched his fists. Having his abilities, even his life, controlled by someone else was too cruel. A pair of slender, sleek arms gently embraced the young man, And the woman soothed him softly, "It's not your fault. And, do you dare come near me?" Nian said with difficulty. What if he committed such a crime, indirectly depriving his demigod aunt of eternal life and even her noble soul? Nian didn't even dare to think about it. He had already made his decision, even at the cost of his own life, he would defend the other's honor. Diana wanted to say something. Nian reached out to break free from her embrace, threw back the covers, put on his slippers, and walked towards the door. "And, I'm tired these past few days. I'm going back to my room to sleep." It wasn't that Nian didn't want to, but he didn't dare to stay in this room. He was afraid he would be unable to resist. And his aunt wouldn't resist him. This was the most terrifying thing at the moment. Watching Nian leave the room and close the door, Diana's beautiful eyes, sparkling with wisdom, reflected a thoughtful expression. Abilities shouldn't change so suddenly and significantly. A permanent ability, why would there be a disagreement? Dividing line, recommended book, The King in Marvel, synopsis. Kiai was originally the king of a small island. After awakening his system, he began to build the supreme Marvel kingdom, Demacia. This book was written by the author on a spur of the moment using a secondary account. It was quite successful, a near masterpiece, but unfortunately, the updates were too slow at the time and it never made it to the platform. It's available on Kidian.com and Kaiu. It's about farming, dominance, and harems, with many League of Legends elements. It tells the story of the king of the poorest island nation in history, and his journey to build Demacia's dominance in the Marvel Universe. It's a spiritual sequel to My Infinite Card Draw in Marvel, and quite entertaining. Currently over 800,000 words, it's quite substantial. It's still being serialized, and many gaps will be addressed soon. Interested readers should check it out. Chapter 256 The Dead Poison Ivy. Gotham. In an underground workshop, a furnace roared, dispelling the dampness and gloom of the subterranean chamber. On a crude metal workbench, containers filled with a strongly pungent liquid were placed, along with tools and equipment like a generator, a drill, a chainsaw, and pliers. Suddenly, a sharp, sawing sound erupted. On the workbench, a strand of black hair, about 5 or 6 centimeters long, was tightly clamped by a machine, suspended at both ends. A sharp, round steel blade spun rapidly above it, cutting downwards towards the center of the black hair. Swish! The saw blade, spinning at such a speed that it blurred the movement of its motion, struck the black hair. Instead of breaking, a shower of sparks erupted. It was as if sawing through a piece of finely tempered steel. Swish! The steel blade continued to press down, sparks flying everywhere, and the machine suddenly erupted in a burst of electronic sparks and thick black smoke. Crack! A shirtless black man immediately stepped forward and cut off the power, halting the machine on the workbench. However, the machine was clearly already in a semi-decommissioned state. Scorched black smoke billowed outward, filling every corner of the underground workshop. How is that possible? The black man's eyes widened in disbelief. The slowly stopping chainsaw had its blade bent, while a strand of hair, suspended from the machine's chassis, shone in the heat of the furnace. The hair wasn't even broken, let alone broken. Oh my god. The black man's scalp tingled. Just a single strand of hair was like this. Imagine the terrifying owner of that hair. It couldn't be human. Big sister, even if you say this hair belongs to God, I'll believe it. The black man turned and looked at the two figures, one large and one small, standing behind him. They were clearly a girl with twin tails and heavy clown makeup, and a shark with 4 limbs standing like a human. Can we do a DNA test? Harley shrugged. Hey, big sister, the black man said with a wry smile. Automatic chainsaws can't cut it, high concentration acid can't dissolve it, high temperature flames can't burn it, and even high voltage electric shocks can't work. How can we test DNA with this? Harley frowned, knowing that this was indeed a bit unreasonable. The hair was indeed outrageous, its strength simply beyond human comprehension. But there aren't many people in this world with hair like this, right? The black man muttered, that reminds me of someone. Who? Harley's eyes narrowed. The black man, with a hint of fear, slowly uttered a name, Superman. Superman. Harley was stunned for a moment, then a flash of inspiration hit her. That's right. Since that person had infiltrated the meeting to suppress Supergirl as a traitor, didn't that mean he and Supergirl were closely connected? If it was Superman, everything was connected. Even if it's Superman, so what? I'll confront him sooner or later. Harley clenched her fists, silently making up her mind. Of course, before that, she wanted to find Poison Ivy. Since that day, Poison Ivy had vanished from Gotham. No one knew where she had gone, and all attempts to contact her and her connections were unsuccessful. In this world, the only person Harley Quinn could worry about was Poison Ivy. But then, from beneath the closed door of the underground workshop, a human figure suddenly flashed outside. "Who is it?" a burly black man shouted. He quickly drew a pistol from his waist pack and, with his tall, muscular frame, slid nimbly against the wall to the door. He glanced out through the peephole in the door. The black man shook his head at Harley Quinn and King Shark behind him. He quickly spotted something on the ground and leaned over to pick up a letter that had been dropped under the crack in the workshop door. "Big sister, this letter is for you." The black man glanced at the envelope and said to Harley Quinn. "Let me see." Harley took the letter. It read briefly, "To Gotham's Queen of Crime, Harley Quinn, Miss Harley Quinn. I have a very crazy and interesting idea. How about coming to my place for a special party? This party is different from the last small-scale event. Only people of your status are eligible to attend. Lex Luthor. Boring." Harley sneered and was about to throw the letter into the fire, but then she seemed to think of something and narrowed her eyes slightly. This might be an opportunity. Harley opened the envelope and found a paper boat ticket inside. The weekend was approaching. A date with Gwen was about to take place. This would be their first date since their relationship broke through. However, Nian had noticed strangely that Gwen had been a little absent-minded recently, going to school, going home, and even in class. Could it be that the pressure of being the new superhero of the Avengers was too great? Nian thought about it and decided to use the weekend to give Gwen some good advice. He would take her to whatever she liked and let her relax. And so, Friday afternoon. The bell rang, and students filed out of the school gate. "Gwen, have a great weekend. I'll try my best not to disturb you." Kara came to Gwen's side, hugged her arms, and said a blessing with a sweet smile. Gwen's face suddenly flushed, and she hesitated to respond. Nian, who was standing by, was a little surprised. On ordinary days, Gwen should have a quarrel with Kara, but why did she feel like she was losing before it even started? Something was wrong. "Nian, do your best." Kara's delicate body moved closer, whispering in Nian's ear, then smiled and waved to the two of them, saying, "I'm going to my cousin's house for dinner, so I'll leave first." After that, she ran to a street corner near the school. Soon, a black dot cut through the white clouds in the distant sky and disappeared at the end of the sight. Nian withdrew his gaze from the sky and glanced at Gwen curiously. "Did you two make a promise?" "Don't ask. I absolutely won't tell you." Gwen gritted her teeth, covering her blushing face with her hands. So there really was one, a promise or something. Nian blinked. Curiosity, pure curiosity. Just then, the chatter of passing students caught Nian's attention. A new flower shop recently opened on Fiho Street next to the school. The owner is a stunning beauty. She has a stunning figure and a wonderful temperament. She's much prettier than the actresses on TV. So that's why you bought so many flowers. What do you know? They don't sell flowers there. I bought them from another florist. What? A florist that doesn't sell flowers? Gwen, go home first. I have to go somewhere first, Nian said to Gwen, who was returning home with him. Okay, be safe. Gwen breathed a sigh of relief and nodded softly. See you tomorrow, then. Nian smiled at her. Tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Gwen's face flushed. She waved, quickening her pace as she ran away. Why? I'm not a cannibal. Nian watched the girl's retreating figure, bewildered. Nian was walking alone down the street. Shortly after leaving school, a message arrived on his phone. It was from Gwen, who had just escaped. Nian, I'm going out tomorrow. Do you need anything? Nian smiled and spoke, prompting Alice to text her response. Little Wong's been bored at home lately, so I'm taking him with me. With him, we can travel light tomorrow. Okay, Gwen replied. A moment later, another message arrived. What should I wear tomorrow? Most importantly, which one do you like? The bluntness and boldness of this message reminded Nian of their childhood sweethearts, before they'd even broken through their relationship, a stark contrast to the girl who blushed so easily these days. A sudden glimmer of understanding dawned in Nian's eyes. Gwen texted him now as childhood sweetheart, so naturally, she wasn't shy. Instead, she was as proactive and direct as before. A good brother is back. Xinian's lips curled up, and he replied bluntly, I like whatever you wear. Black stockings would be even better. Gwen quickly replied, understood, pocketing her phone. Xinian paused. He had already reached his destination. It was a flower shop tucked away on a modern street corner. There was no sign, only a vibrant display of plants. Where the sign should have been, vines of lush greenery clung to the shop, blooming with vibrant white, yellow, and purple flowers. Potted plants of various varieties were displayed in front of the shop and inside. The breeze emanated a fresh, natural fragrance, creating a unique landscape apart from the bustling modern city. A sign hung on the half-open glass door, no plants for sale. Nian pushed open the glass door and stepped into the flower shop. The light inside was filtered by the branches and leaves. The air was incredibly fresh, and the perfect temperature was comfortable, as if he had stepped into a forest. A graceful figure in a red dress squatted before a tray of flowers, a white sunhat covering her vibrant red hair as she meticulously trimmed the branches with scissors. The light and shadows of the city outside, shredded by the branches and leaves, fell on the figure wrapped in a long red dress, creating a blurry curve from the back of her neck to her hips. Seeing the woman in front of him, Nian saw a vine-like mark between his eyebrows, gleaming with a faint green luster. The female owner of the flower shop seemed oblivious to the young man behind him and continued to trim the plants. Poison ivy, why are you here? Nian asked in a low voice. The female owner didn't reply, but continued to trim the plants until she was done. The female owner's slender white fingers gently touched the wound on the plant where the juice was oozing out, and the smooth wound miraculously healed. She put down the scissors. The female proprietress stood up, revealing a beautiful, alluring, yet slightly pale face beneath the brim of her hat. It was poison ivy, wasn't it? But compared to her previous strength and coolness, poison ivy now resembled a lifeless plant, visibly haggard and frail. She ignored Nian inside the shop. Without even glancing up at Nian, she slowly ascended the escalator to the second floor. Halfway up, she calmly said, come up. Nian followed. The escalator to the second floor was also entangled with vines. Unlike the gentle exterior, the vines inside had sharp barbs. It was poison ivy. Nian's steely frame naturally ignored the barbs. He suddenly wanted to reach out and touch the thorny poison ivy, but the moment he raised his hand, the poison ivy moved away. These vines were fearing and resisting him. Poison ivy. Nian ascended to the second floor and lost her sight. The interior walls and ceiling of the second floor were covered in thorny poison ivy. The windows were tangled and obscured by vines, allowing only a thin sliver of light to seep in. The cacophony of horns and voices outside was blocked out, making the interior remarkably quiet. Furniture was sparse, mostly covered in green vines, with only a bed placed at the very back. A brand new red double bed. Nian stared at the bed, a bit dazed, when behind him, he heard the sound of light footsteps. You. Nian turned around, his pupils suddenly shrinking, and he froze in shock. Poison ivy approached barefoot, her long red dress falling from her shoulders. It was a scene of breathtaking beauty, unmatched by any flower in the shop, a scene as stunning as nature itself. Poison ivy sauntered past Nian, her smooth white legs slightly raised, her entire red dress resting on the floor. Come on. Poison ivy lay on the bed, like a seductive queen in full bloom, her unfocused eyes glancing to the side. What? Nian swallowed. Whatever you want, do whatever you want. Poison ivy added calmly, I just washed it a while ago, it's very clean. Nian took a deep breath and said again in a deep voice, why are you doing this? Poison ivy replied, it's to prevent me from committing crimes in Gotham City. And it's best to stay in a place where I can be monitored regularly. This place, so close to your school, is perfect. That way, you can control me better and make me do anything. Isn't that what you ultimately want? Poison ivy closed her eyes and lay defenseless on the bed. I really don't want you to commit crimes anymore, Nian said seriously, but you don't have to do this to yourself. Poison ivy said calmly, don't worry, I'm not as easygoing as I look. Because of my abilities, no one dared to touch me before, and no one will in the future. Poison ivy has set up a trap. No one will come here. Or are you feeling uncomfortable here? Poison ivy opened her eyes and finally looked up at Nian, her gaze like a pool of stagnant water. Nian said honestly, What I mean is, some of the things you want to do, such as committing crimes, can't continue. But you can choose not to do anything you don't want to do, just like before. The same as before? Now even my life and abilities are in your hands. Can I still decide my own life and destiny? Poison Ivy's dim eyes didn't have any expression, and her pale face didn't have any expression. She said lightly, "Or do you think it's cheap for me to cater to you like this? One of your thoughts can directly affect my life and death. I really want to ask you, how does it feel to conquer the former queen of crime in Gotham?" If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257, Date with Spider-Woman, thanks to the 25th Hallmaster. Poison Ivy, you and I both know this was just an accident. I have to admit, you're truly charming, a beauty that can drive people mad. But I simply have no interest in a corpse lying on a bed, so goodbye. Nian didn't do anything else, leaving these words behind as he turned and left the second floor. Before leaving, he didn't forget to pick up the red dress he'd stepped on and draped it over a patch of poison ivy in the room. Poison Ivy lay motionless on the bed, her eyes glassy before closing them and slumping over. The faint light filtering through the vines was hazy, free of dust, casting a veil-like light on her fair, graceful form. As utterly alluring and beautiful as the red dress itself. Walking out of the flower shop and back onto the bustling street, Nian breathed. Those words he just said were, of course, false. How could he not be interested? Even if it was an inflatable, top-tier fairy, it would be hard for anyone to resist. But Nian wasn't one to be cold-hearted afterward. And my aunt had also said that I had to take responsibility. But right now, Nian didn't know what to do. Poison Ivy was like a lifeless vine, nearly withered and dead. A simple watering and fertilizing wouldn't save her. Most importantly, after her life and abilities were controlled by others, she lost her sense of self. So, what she had said was right. That seemingly humble act of flattery was actually just a survival instinct. From that day on, Poison Ivy's life was destined to revolve around him, her only world. Nian sighed inwardly, and a tinge of joy filled his heart. He felt like he was upgrading from a scumbag to a scumbag. The next morning. Downtown New York. The same skyscrapers stood in rows, but compared to the underworld of Gotham, the bright sun shone down on the streets, commercial billboards dazzled, and the traffic was bustling. As summer approached, the weather grew warmer, and pedestrians wore increasingly light clothing. A young man and a young woman walked hand in hand on the sidewalk. The boy wore a short-sleeved t-shirt with artistic graffiti, cropped light-colored casual pants, and canvas shoes, giving him the look of a typical student. He looked fresh and sunny. The girl, wearing a baseball cap to hold back her short blonde hair, revealed a delicate face with light makeup beneath. She wore a stylish, fitted shirt and short skirt. Her legs, clad in black stockings, were gleaming flesh, and small, childlike black, low-top boots covered her feet. She exuded a youthful aura, yet possessed a certain intellectuality, a sense of maturity in transition. A kitten, roughly the size of a palm, rested on the boy's shoulder, its orange tail swaying from side to side, its head flicking with eager anticipation, its clever eyes flickering in anticipation. "Gwen, where do you want to go?" Nian asked with a smile. "As long as I'm with you, anything." Gwen whispered shyly, not meeting his gaze. This was girlfriend mode, not childhood sweetheart mode. Wouldn't it be a waste to come all the way to New York? Nian pondered for a moment, then suddenly came up with an idea. "Let's interview some passers-by." "Okay, interview passers-by." Gwen responded instinctively at first, then her jewel-like eyes widened in confusion. "Hello, Mom." Nian, as if by magic, pulled a microphone from his trouser pocket and addressed a passing woman. "We're from the local school's students' news group. What do you think of Spider-Woman, the new superhero who joined the Avengers?" The woman, upon confirming her identity, praised her profusely. "My two daughters adore her. They're fans. She's amazing, isn't she?" "Oh, she has fans." Nian winked secretly at Gwen, who was standing beside him. Gwen blushed, feeling socially awkward. On the street, upon hearing Nian's interview about Spider-Woman, some passers-by volunteered to join in. "Spider-Woman, flying around the city like that is so cool. My handbag was snatched on the street, and Spider-Woman got it back for me. My neighbor's daughter was in a house fire last time, and Spider-Woman saved her. Look, I'm wearing clothes with Spider-Woman cartoon merchandise. My new goddess, Spider-Woman. Then who was your last goddess? Needless to say, the silver-haired goddess, of course. Pretend I didn't ask. More and more passers-by gathered around to join in the conversation, and Nian saw all sorts of Spider-Woman merchandise. Cartoon t-shirts, spiderweb chocolates, Spider-Woman masks. Clearly, Spider-Woman's popularity in New York City is catching up to Iron Man and Captain America. After all, Spider-Woman is very young, symbolizing the youthful superhero community. She's also the second female superhero in the Avengers. The first, Black Widow, is still an agent of SHIELD, so she doesn't usually appear in the New York City area, out for the taking. A while later, Nian dragged Gwen out of the tightly packed crowd, akin to fleeing for his life. Only after they'd run 100 meters did Nian pat his chest and, still visibly shaken, say, "If they knew I was dating Spider-Woman, they wouldn't attack me, would they?" "No way." Gwen spat, a faint blush still lingering on her cheeks. Despite feeling like she was about to die, she was still delighted by the public's approval. "Look, Gwen. Just do your best. Don't put so much pressure on yourself," Nian said with an encouraging smile. Pressure? Gwen looked up curiously. When had she ever felt pressure? While she had certainly felt a gap in superhero power when competing with Kara, she hadn't felt overly stressed. She simply felt it was a shame to lose their first date. "I'll take you out to relax this weekend," Nian said, his expression full of determination. Relax? Gwen was obviously stunned for a moment when she heard this. Some unbearable images and the words that Kara had said before suddenly flashed through her mind. In an instant, Gwen's forehead heated up so much that steam was about to come out. "Do you have a place you want to go to?" Nian asked. "Play, a hotel." Gwen shook her head violently, almost throwing the baseball cap she was wearing off, and her voice was as small as an ant. "I don't know. But, anything is fine." "Anything is fine." Nian glanced at Gwen curiously, and then said, "By the way, I have a good place, let's go there first." "Hey, are we going now?" Exclamation mark. Gwen was caught off guard and couldn't help but glance at the sky. "Now, it's still daytime." "What's wrong, you don't want to go?" Nian said. "It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I'm not mentally prepared." Gwen calmed down, bit her lip lightly, hugged Nian's arm and said, "Let's go." Chapter 258 The Future Company, thanks to the head of Taoying. In Brooklyn, a commercial district adjacent to Manhattan Island, every inch of land is valuable. A high-rise towers imposingly, towering into the sky, making ordinary skyscrapers look immature in comparison. Behind this commercial building lies a vast manufacturing plant, its buildings clustered together, and the faint silhouette of a large space rocket can be seen. Nian led Gwen to the building's front plaza. Looking up, almost to the point of slumping his hat, he could see a silver, crown-like logo, prominently displayed at the very top of the corporate building. The entire exterior shone brilliantly in the sunlight. From time to time, elites in suits and ties ascended and descended the front steps. "So, this is where you're talking about," Gwen realized. "Where did you think it was? What kind of mental preparation do I need to have before coming here?" Nian smiled. Gwen blushed, but didn't respond. "Let's go." Nian took Gwen's hand and ascended the stairs, step by step, toward the main commercial building. The first-floor lobby of the super-large skyscraper. At the reception desk in the center of the main hall, a beautiful and intellectual woman, dressed in a tight, professional dress and a silver crown badge, stood upright. Facing people, she wore a perfectly soft smile. When no one noticed, she puffed her cheeks unhappily, sat down slightly on the reception desk chair, and rubbed her waist, which was constricted by her dress. "I'm really tired," Daisy Louise muttered quietly. After the strange incident in Paris, France, the professor, who was found naked and constantly shouting celestial unity, was arrested and hospitalized by local police as a mental patient. Their astronomy research group was disbanded. Actually, Daisy Louise hadn't originally been an astronomy major. For the past 2 or 3 years, she had simply been helping her best friend Jane Foster. Recently, Jane broke up with Thor, and her astronomy career had been put on hold. Daisy Louise returned to her New York home to seek a career. To her great surprise, her resume, which she had submitted to her current company, had actually been accepted. She became a member of Future Chronicle. Though just an ordinary receptionist, after a mysterious tycoon acquired the company and renamed it Future Chronicle, its first two major investments came from Stark Industries and Wayne Industries. Overnight, Future Chronicle became a rising tech powerhouse that countless elites scrambled to get into. Furthermore, the salary at Future Chronicle was high, almost rivaling that of Stark Industries for similar positions. Daisy naturally wanted to do her best and, later, bring her best friend Jane in. There was one thing about this company that puzzled Daisy. It had already been a week since she started. Daisy had never met the chairman, and even the top executives were a mystery to everyone in the company. There was only one secretary, the president's secretary named Alice, who methodically assigned weekly and daily tasks to each position, which made Daisy feel like she was just playing a game and accepting system-generated tasks. The company had clear rewards and penalties. Meeting deadlines or exceeding targets earned bonuses or promotion points. Delays or failure to meet targets, the next day, you could be fired. Daisy initially thought the system was harsh and impersonal, but after working there, she realized that the CEO's secretary, Alice, assigned tasks to every position, even every employee, that were manageable. A little slacking wasn't a problem, but excessive laziness or a lack of effort would result in a ruthless dismissal. However, once you put in the hard work, your promotions would undoubtedly be much faster than at other companies. Efficiency. Daisy felt this company's pursuit of efficiency was impeccable. She only sat down for a moment. Daisy didn't dare slack off and continued working diligently. She'd heard from other employees that the CEO's secretary, Alice, constantly checked the company's security cameras, revealing everything about the company. Last time, an employee, sitting in a corner of the office, thought their boss wasn't noticing, was carried out by security, chair and all. They were blacklisted within the industry, and the news spread to other industries. Just as Daisy was getting back to work, she saw two figures enter the company's main entrance. They were a young couple. Among them, the short-haired girl was quite pretty, and Daisy couldn't help but stare at her a few more times, thinking she was even prettier than she'd been in high school. "Hey, isn't that the boy from last time?" Daisy's eyes fell on the boy next to her, and she froze. She recognized him instantly. Wasn't that the kid in the red trench coat who'd suddenly jumped from the Paris factory building? That boy had vanished, and calls to the police had yielded no results. She hadn't expected to see him here. As Daisy was stunned, she saw the boy and girl avoid the front desk and instead head straight to the elevator area on the first floor of the building. There were 6 elevators there, leading to the building's basement garage, administrative floors, research floors, and other upper floors. The elevators had built-in security systems, requiring facial recognition before the doors would open. The higher the company level, the higher the floors one could reach. Currently, Daisy could only reach the 10th floor. Wait, what's that elevator? Watching the boy and girl head towards the unused 6th elevator, Daisy was about to intervene, but as she watched in shock, the elevator doors opened and the two vanished. "Master, welcome home." A pleasant female voice echoed from the 6th elevator. "Welcome to you too, Miss Gwen." "Hello, Alice," Gwen replied to the camera. "Alice, how is the company doing now?" Nian pondered. Alice replied, "Currently, the company has over 10,000 employees, 8,902 with F-level clearance, 1,080 with D-level clearance, 18 with C-level clearance, and 0 with other BAS clearances. We've reached the top level of developing world-class technology. World-class technology isn't enough. I need a company that can pioneer and lead Earth future technology, comparable to alien civilizations." Nian shook his head, but he also knew that the company was just getting started, and that there weren't many people capable of cracking and developing alien-level weapons. For example, Stark Industries. Without the Starks, father and son, it would be at best a world-leading manufacturing industry. But with Tony Stark, Iron Man, Stark Industries is the most powerful industry of its generation. Recruiting scientific and technological talents whose knowledge breaks through the limitations of the current era is the next step for Future Chronicle. What's the situation with the space satellites and supercomputers? Nian continued to ask. Alice, currently, Future Chronicle has 2 dedicated satellites, located over Washington and New York respectively. We have 3 supercomputers, which can provide me with sufficient computing power. Pietro. Nian's eyes gleamed. Alice understood what he meant and quickly responded, yes, the satellites are always searching. If you have any clues, let me know immediately. At this time, the 6th elevator ascended to the highest floor that no one had ever reached since the founding of Future Chronicle. Future Chronicle, the chairman's office. Chapter 259, Playing with Spiders. The top floor of Future Chronicle's main building. This is the highest level of privilege, accessible only by the 6th elevator. When Nian and Gwen stepped out of the elevator, they were both stunned. The layout and interior of this top floor, more like a luxury hotel suite than an office. Plush sofas, soft blankets, large floor-to-ceiling windows with elegant purple curtains, even the desk is a cozy, home-style desk. Most strikingly, there's a large round bed in the lobby. Alice explained, we have everything you need for bathing, gaming, movies, exercise, and more. We also have holographic projection, laser security, and a robot vacuum cleaner that cleans all day long. The room temperature is maintained at a comfortable 23 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is kept between 45% and 65% relative humidity. Stop, stop, stop. Nian interrupted Alice. His lips twitched slightly as he asked, Alice, why does the chairman's office look like this? Have you ever seen an office like this? Alice replied, Master, because this company is yours. What do you mean? Nian felt he couldn't keep up with the AI's train of thought. Alice, given your situation, Master, even if you come to the company frequently in the future, most of the company affairs will be handled by me or Wanda, the housekeeper. In that case, you won't be able to use a normal office space. It would be better to design and use it like a top-notch hotel suite, a second home. Nian didn't know what to say. He actually thought Alice's words made sense. This wasn't right. Then at least there should be an office that truly resembles a chairman's office. Nian rubbed his chin, pondering. Alice, yes. On the next floor, it's equipped like a normal chairman's office. You can reach it directly by taking the elevator or the stairs on the top floor. Meow. Xiao Wang jumped off Nian's shoulder and landed on the carpet, rubbing his body and picking up his scent. I understand the logic. But why is this bed so huge? Nian's eye twitched as he gazed at the eye-catching round bed perched atop the building. It was 2 or 3 times the size of an ordinary round bed. It wouldn't fit in any other room. Only in this spacious and luxurious top floor did it feel just right. That depends on your situation. Stop. Nian hurriedly interrupted Alice. This AI is too clever. Suffocating. This bed looks so comfortable. Gwen tentatively lunged forward, the round bed bouncing like a luxurious air cushion. The girl's cap flew off, her short, golden hair swaying and spreading. Nian's gaze instinctively darted inward. Ha ha ha. Nian, do you want to try it? Gwen let out a cheerful, lilting laugh. She looked back from her perch on the bed, noticing Nian's unwavering gaze. Ah. Gwen blushed, quickly getting off the bed and pulling down the hem of her skirt to hide her curvy figure, clad in black stockings. Ahem. Nian avoided Gwen's humiliated gaze and asked, Alice, is there anything to eat here? Alice, of course. We have an American food machine and a beverage dispenser. What would you like? Give me a steak and a glass of red wine, Nian instructed. Okay. Alice, Miss Gwen, what would you like to eat? 1 plate of pasta, 2 eggs, and a sausage. Gwen huffed. After watching Gwen devour her meal with her delicate little mouth, Nian calmed down considerably. With no plans for the afternoon, Nian and Gwen simply stayed in the top floor office, playing games and watching movies. It felt like returning to that childhood feeling long ago. Nian, you were talking about Pietro, Gwen suddenly said, watching the movie. Yes, Nian nodded. He's the twin brother of my maid, Wanda. He was captured by Hydra agents embedded in SHIELD during our last battle in New York, and his whereabouts remain unknown. Hydra. Gwen pondered. The Avengers have also been cooperating with SHIELD recently to target some of Hydra's hidden bases. If I have any news about him, I'll let you know. Okay, please. Nian nodded. Although Wanda, the maid, wouldn't say anything, he knew she must be missing Pietro. Now he understood. Since Wanda and Lorna, one a gifted sorcerer and the other a born supernatural being, this meant Pietro must also have special talents, which was the biggest reason Hydra had targeted him. The midday sun continued to drift downward until it sank below the city horizon. It was evening. The sunlight filtering through the curtains of the floor-to-ceiling windows gradually faded, dimming the light inside the building's top floor. Nian, reclining on the sofa, gradually regained consciousness. He forgot when he fell asleep. The beautiful surroundings, atmosphere, and room temperature were truly so soothing. Nian opened his eyes and found the projection TV had gone into standby mode. His legs felt slightly heavy. He looked down. He could see the short-haired girl, breathing evenly, sprawled across his lap, also seemingly asleep, her well-developed body sprawled sideways on the sofa beside him. Her round, soft breasts drooped, barely contained by his shirt, forming a delicate pancake shape on the sofa and his legs. Her legs, tightly wrapped in black stockings, intertwined and overlapped, their slender, upward-curling feet radiating a delicate pink. The faint glow outside cast a translucent luster on everything. Nian's breathing quickened. In truth, yesterday afternoon, due to the incident with poison ivy, he had already reached a certain limit of his patience. At home, no. Right now, the only suitable candidates were Kara and Gwen. Since Kara possesses a Kryptonian physique, when Nian also gains the ability of Kryptonian mode, her uncontrolled power is difficult to satisfy. Therefore, the best candidate now is her childhood sweetheart Gwen. Gwen, do you want to get up and continue playing games? Nian felt a surge of heat all over his body and gently nudged the girl's shoulder. Gwen remained unmoved, as if she were soundly asleep, without opening her eyes. However, her face began to flush slightly, clearly waking up and realizing what Nian wanted to play. Gwen, can we play games? Nian lowered his head, gently stroking his palm downwards, and asked softly. Gwen's eyelashes trembled slightly, but she still didn't open her eyes. She pursed her lips and hummed softly, hum. Approval was granted. Nian began a solo. No, it could also be considered a two-player game. Chapter 260 Avengers, Please Kill Me. Nian finished his prelude game. The sun had already set, shrouding the vast, bustling city in darkness, its neon lights gleaming like stars. Inside the top-floor office, only a few dim lights shone, casting a faint warm glow across the room. Nian raised his hand, flicked his right wrist, and instantly unleashed a white spider web. The web, stained with shredded black silk, landed precisely in the main hall's trash can. Gwen, it's getting dark. Time for bed, Nian said, his breath growing hot as he spoke to the girl in his arms. Gwen hummed softly, eyes closed. Nian reached out, using spider mode to lift the girl's seemingly weightless body. Her bare legs, now stripped of their black stockings, swung gracefully. But then, the voice of the AI Alice echoed untimely from the main hall. Master, I don't want to disturb you, but something's happening in New York City right now that I think you'd want to know about immediately. What is it? Nian suppressed the heat in his body. He knew Alice's questioning meant it must be extremely important, or perhaps related to him in some way. Please look. Alice suddenly activated a holographic projection. In the room in front of Nian, blue phantoms shimmered and shifted, and a news report video played. The video showed a single, cube-shaped cage made of double-layered glass. Inside, a white man with a haggard, pale face was held captive. His hair was a mess, as if he hadn't washed it in ages. His lips were chapped, and the dark circles under his eyes were so severe they resembled a panda's. The white man sat in a chair, slowly raising his gaze upwards, staring through the glass cage at the camera in front of him. His dry, hoarse voice filtered through the voice channel. My name is Eddie Brock. I'm 33 years old. I was a professional journalist. At the peak of my career, I was quite well known in New York. The video continued to play. Alice explained at the right time, Master, this is a live broadcast of the New York News Channel. The whole of New York City can see this live video. Nian nodded and continued to watch. Gwen in his arms also opened her eyes and watched. At this time, the big screens in Times Square, the billboards on the commercial streets, the ordinary TVs in every household, the TVs in taxis. Everyone who saw the live broadcast stopped their work in surprise to look at the man who claimed to be in his 30s but looked as haggard as 50. Eddie Brock stared straight at the camera, made a self-deprecating remark, and said hoarsely, I didn't expect that after so many years as a reporter, I would be the biggest news in the end. You must be very curious about what crime I have committed. In fact, I asked someone to make this cage for me, and I locked myself in it. Oh, you must think I'm a lunatic or drunk. But I'm actually very sober now. I have never been so sober in my life. Cough cough. Eddie Brock covered his mouth with his hand, his body suddenly bent over and coughed. Dark red blood spurted out from between his fingers, and some of it spilled on the inner wall of the glass cage. Eddie Brock glanced at the blood on his hand, gritted his teeth, and continued weakly, I can guarantee that everything I'm about to say is true. The story that led me to my current situation started 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I discovered that Drake Biogenetics was trapping homeless people on the streets of New York. When I started investigating, I was fired by my boss, so I decided to infiltrate Drake Corporation to find out. That was the beginning of my nightmare. At Drake Corporation, I discovered they were conducting inhumane human experiments, using the missing homeless people as test subjects. They were studying an alien creature brought back from outer space by spacecraft, the symbiote. This symbiote is liquid-like and can parasitize humans, enabling manipulation and transformation. Yes, the black kitten that last appeared in New York was this inhuman alien being. As soon as these words were spoken, the people watching the live stream erupted in an uproar, filled with inexplicable horror. On the rooftop of Future Chronicle Company, Nian narrowed his eyes, and Zia Wang, who had been lying on the blanket, suddenly opened his cat's eyes and stood up. A stream of black liquid gushed out of the cat's body, forming a hideous alien head. Its narrow, white eyes stared at the holographic projection screen. I don't know how many symbiotes are still hiding on Earth, but their vast population in outer space, and humans are a perfect host species for them. And once they're parasitized, humans can easily become their puppet carriers. At this point, Eddie Brock began coughing violently again. This time, he fell off his chair and fell to the ground, coughing up huge mouthfuls of blood. A strange scene suddenly appeared. The coughed up blood formed scarlet strands and automatically reversed itself, flowing back into Eddie Brock's mouth and into his body. Eddie Brock felt sick and nauseous, his eyes bloodshot. As you can see, I have a symbiote inside me. The New Yorkers watching the live video all paled. I've tried, I've fought it, and now I can't hold on any longer. I feel like tonight, no, soon, I'm going to be completely taken over by it. So, Avengers, are you watching? Come and stop me, kill me. Otherwise, massacre is coming. Eddie Brock had barely finished speaking when, with a swish, a swish, a swish, scarlet spikes burst from Eddie Brock's body. Then, his body began to be covered in a crimson liquid, condensing and transforming into a 3-meter-tall humanoid monster with a tough crimson exoskeleton and a savage, canine-like fangs. Swish. The humanoid monster's narrow eyes were evil and violent, and 4 or 5 crimson tentacles danced wildly behind it. It was like a creature of terror, the embodiment of carnage. Its mere existence was terrifying. Bang! Carnage threw a violent punch, shattering the double-glazed glass. It lunged forward and swallowed the camera lens in one gulp. The live stream ended, followed by a silent black screen. But the New Yorkers who watched it could all imagine the terrifying, ferocious symbiote gnawing at the camera lens like bone, casting its narrow, fierce eyes upon the New York metropolis. Night had fallen, and the slaughter was imminent. The entire New York metropolis erupted in a frenzy, gripped by the symbiote's panic. Chapter 261 The Three Great Powers of the Avengers. This was undoubtedly a massive werewolf self-exposure. The remaining symbiote slaughtered its human host, Eddie, and broadcast a live news broadcast to the entire New York metropolis, revealing shocking secrets about the symbiote and itself. Not long ago, due to the impact of the Battle of New York, most New Yorkers still harbored a deep fear and psychological trauma of alien forces. Now, they suddenly learned that an alien species called the symbiote existed and hid in the city they lived in. New York City was in an uproar. In the top floor office of Future Chronicle, Nian watched the live broadcast to the last moment, his eyes narrowed, his face slightly grim. Gwen also slipped from Nian's arms and sat on the sofa, smoothing her sweat-stained golden hair from her face. Venom, is that it? Nian cast his gaze towards the carpet in the main hall. There, resting Little Emperor, a black liquid substance gushed from the cat's body, coalescing into a dark, alien head. Venom, the reformed symbiote coexisting with a devourer cub. I've told you this before. Venom's voice was sharp and hoarse. From the moment we sensed a fellow symbiote, it and I have been hiding from each other, like two people in the woods, each unaware of the other's location. Nian nodded. Venom had indeed mentioned this to him a few weeks ago, but finding a symbiote so skilled at hiding in a city was incredibly difficult. So, he'd simply had Venom hide as well, waiting until the other was exposed before dealing with it. He hadn't expected the symbiote to reveal itself so directly. Venom continued, "When I entered the city this morning, I vaguely sensed an increase in the presence of my kind. At first, I thought it was an illusion, but now seeing this, I'm completely certain." It said firmly, "It must be it. Nian, don't worry. Avengers headquarters is under guard tonight," Gwen said. Nian frowned, feeling something was amiss. His spider sense was sounding a strong warning. There might be more to the story than meets the eye. Avengers headquarters, a leisure and entertainment center exclusively for superheroes. A large floor-to-ceiling window overlooked much of downtown New York. The interior was atmospherically lit with low lights and classic music records. On a low glass table stood a tall glass of rich red wine, a standard glass of whiskey, and an oversized glass of beer with frothy white foam. Gurgle. Ice cubes sank and melted in the glasses, bubbling. A towering figure, perched on the sofa next to him, strode forward. He grasped the handle of the oversized glass, lifted it, and, with a single gulp, drank it all. Then, with a clang, he set the empty glass on the table, wiped his lips, and let out a half-hearted sigh. On the sofa opposite, a doctor, dressed in science and engineering attire and sitting normally, took a sip of his standard glass of whiskey and soothed, "Thor, there's no need to be so sad. It's just a breakup with your ex." A gentleman in a suit, casually reclining on the sofa with his legs crossed, picked up a goblet and gently swirled his red wine. He said, "I've always been the one who broke up with someone, so I don't really understand what it's like to be dumped. Or really, I just switch gears every night. Beer, whiskey, and red wine." The savage strong man, the engineering PhD, and the playboy. The three of them sat in a triangle on the sofa in the main hall, drinking and chatting around the table. They were the three founding members of the Avengers, each a powerful hero. Thor. The Hulk, Dr. Banner. Iron Man, Tony Stark. Thor frowned, not even pouring his drink. Instead, he picked up the beer bottle and said indignantly, "It's not because of a breakup, and I dumped her. I just lost my weapon. Isn't your hammer right there?" Tony Stark pointed to a corner of the table, where a one-handed warhammer lay. "That's not Thor's hammer. Thor's hammer has long." Thor sighed, raised his beer bottle, and gulped down another gulp. Tony Stark took a closer look at the one-handed hammer. It was indeed quite different from Thor's previous hammer. This one-handed hammer was entirely golden. While the previous Thor's hammer had two ends, this one had a hammer-shaped end on one side and an axe-shaped end on the other. It gleamed with a faint cold light under the light. "It looks better than the previous one," Dr. Banner commented as he examined it. Thor shrugged. "This weapon is called Stormhammer. For some reason, my father created it based on Thor's hammer long ago." "Really? I think Storm Axe is more appropriate," Tony quipped. "Stormhammer, what does it do?" Dr. Banner asked curiously, following his scientist's instinctive curiosity. Thor sighed, "Same as Mjolnir." Tony Stark. Dr. Banner. "If they're all the same, why are you sighing and feeling sad?" Thor, as if knowing what Tony and Banner were thinking, said gravely, "Although it possesses powers similar to Mjolnir, it's in no way comparable to it." Tony was about to say something when a gentle male butler spoke. "Sir, there's something you should know." Immediately, a holographic projection appeared above the three people's table, playing a live broadcast of Eddie's remarks on the existence of symbiotes and his transformation into the Carnage symbiote. Symbiote. Carnage. Let the Avengers kill him. The three watched the live broadcast, their minds aghast. Tony Stark, in particular, grew serious when he heard Eddie mention the black kitten. A black, flashing kitten, a symbiote? "Where is that Eddie?" Tony asked bluntly. "The artificial intelligence," Jarvis said. "The live broadcast addresses B17 Momfield Street, Queens, very close to our headquarters." Tony Stark quickly stood up, donning a pair of ordinary glasses and tapping the glowing blue energy core on his chest. As he gently tugged at his clothes, a special crimson metal materialized. The extremely malleable and flexible metal quickly spread across his body, forming a smooth, seamless, ultra-modern metal armor with no signs of craftsmanship. "Nano-armor," Dr. Banner murmured. He had expected Tony to polish it for years, but it hadn't been completed so quickly. Of course, This was all thanks to Future Chronicle, the company that pioneered the nanotechnology. Gentlemen, I need to go over there. The metal eye sockets and chest triangle glowed white, and Tony Stark, now Iron Man, spoke. Chapter 262 The True Target of Symbiote Massacre. I'll go with you. Thor reached for Stormbreaker from the table and stood up. His original outfit of a normal human t-shirt and jeans transformed into a red cape and silver armor. Symbiotes, I want to try them too. Dr. Banner shrugged. I'll take a taxi downstairs to sober up. But by the time I get there, you should have dealt with it. Fine. Iron Man didn't refuse. If it really was a symbiote as powerful as Black Flash, he would need help. After 2 decisive defeats at the hands of Black Flash, Iron Man was far less confident than before. Even wearing his newly developed nano armor, he decided to err on the side of caution. Now that the decision had been made, the 3 heroes at Avengers headquarters set off with impetuous force. In less than half a minute, besides Dr. Banner, who had arrived by taxi, Thor, Stormbreaker in hand, and Tony Stark, Iron Man, with his tail trailing flames, landed on the streets of Queens almost simultaneously. Only about 3 minutes had passed since the live stream ended. A hole had been torn open in the ground at Building B17 on Mangfei Street, revealing the basement cell where Eddie had been imprisoned and broadcasting live. The area surrounding the building resembled a tornado, leaving the once bustling modern street in ruins. Everywhere one looked, there were overturned cars, missing billboards, flashing high-voltage power lines, shattered roofs, doors, and windows, and a cloud of dust and plastic bags obscured the street. Citizens and passers-by screamed and fled frantically, forming a terrifying no-man's land centered around the building where Eddie was imprisoned and broadcasting live. Where's the symbiote? Thor glanced around, seeing no sign of the symbiote. Could it have known we were coming and fled? Jarvis, Iron Man Tony said gravely. Jarvis promptly responded, Sir, surveillance cameras throughout New York haven't detected it leaving the area. Scan the surroundings. Iron Man had barely finished speaking when boom. The road behind Iron Man and Thor suddenly broke apart, and a 3-meter-tall crimson monster burst forth from the sewer. It thrust out its sharp claws, transformed into its right hand. Puff. The air behind it was easily ripped apart by the crimson claws. In the nick of time, Iron Man, as if transformed from human to machine, reacted swiftly, turning and raising his left elbow forward. His nano armor instantly extended into a crimson hand shield. The nano shield barely blocked Carnage's blow. Crack. Even with the armor's internal engines cushioning his impact, Iron Man was still pushed back a meter, plowing the road beneath his feet. Iron Man didn't care. His eyes, glowing white, raised their heads and sneered, Wow, you're not only strong, but you're also much uglier than you look in the live video. Swish. Carnage roared fiercely, and 4 or 5 long, crimson tentacles and tails danced wildly behind him. But before he could continue his attack, with a swish, a flash of cold axe-shaped light flashed from top to bottom. The Carnage symbiote was split open from the side of its neck to its chest. Beyond the crimson, stringy goo that formed its exoskeleton, the blood and bones of a genuine human being could be seen within. The incision was as smooth as if it had been cut by a wind blade. The axe dealt a devastating blow. Carnage let out a scream like a middle-aged man, and, afraid to continue attacking, he suddenly stepped back a few steps. It's really tough. One axe couldn't cut it in 2. Thor, watching the symbiote Carnage, sighed in admiration. He still felt that the Stormbreaker wasn't enough. After all, the Stormbreaker wasn't originally his, but was created by Odin for another being. With a thud, the inhuman monster that Carnage had manipulated into transforming into Eddie trembled slightly, and the half-meter-long, fatal wound healed rapidly beneath a crimson string. Thor, don't give it a chance to recover. Iron Man warned, as he spoke with experience dealing with symbiotes. Iron Man raised his fists forward. In that instant, the nanosuit's components detached from his body, symmetrically suspended on either side of his arms and torso, transforming into dazzling laser turrets. These turrets continued to charge, emitting a dazzling glow. Hearing his words, Thor raised his Stormbreaker in his right hand. Thunder roared, and a storm surged above the night sky, swirling dark clouds. Several streaks of purple lightning darted through the dark clouds, gathering energy, ready to strike down with divine retribution. Without hesitation, the Carnage symbiote turned and dashed back down the street, attempting to escape at breakneck speed. but a powerful white laser beam outran it. Boom! The nanosec's strategic weapon unleashed a beam of white light far exceeding the power of any previous Mark armor lasers, instantly blasting Carnage. The tentacles behind him were annihilated first. Before Carnage could even utter a wailing cry, a bolt of lightning with a full meter radius descended from the sky, enveloping him perfectly. Boom! Like a verdict of purple thunder, it roared down, illuminating the skies above New York City. Ultra-high-tech lasers, the thunder of divine punishment from nature. Iron Man, previously defeated by Black Kitten, and Thor, defeated by Prince, now displayed a powerful, crushing presence against Carnage. Nian, is something wrong? In the top-floor office, Gwen donned Spider-Woman superhero attire, her well-developed body accentuated by the nano-spider armor, revealing slender, flexible muscles. Let me think about it again. Nian sat cross-legged on the sofa, pondering. He thought about the cause of tonight's events. Eddie, unable to endure the symbiote Carnage's invasion and control, had requested the Avengers destroy him via the live news broadcast. This seemed like no problem, yet it was full of problems. First of all, how could the man calling himself Eddie possibly hold out for weeks? Based on past experience, a single day with a symbiote is enough to overwhelm the average human's mind. If someone could truly coexist with a symbiote for weeks, they'd either already achieved true symbiosis or one party had already gained control. Of course, only Nian knew the symbiote's detailed characteristics so well. After all, he dealt with several previous symbiotes and even kept one at home, Venom. And there was another strange part. Why such a coincidence? On the very day Nian arrived in New York, Eddie, who had been holding on for weeks, suddenly gave up and revealed he'd asked the Avengers to kill him. Wait? A flash of inspiration struck Nian's mind, and he hurriedly asked Venom, "You just said that when we entered New York today, you could subtly sense their presence. Then, conversely, does Carnage also know that you're in New York right now?" Venom nodded in response. "Our perceptions are similar. It should have been able to determine that I entered New York City this morning, but it just couldn't lock onto my location." Nian's pupils shrank slightly. That's right, everything connects. Eddie's self-exposure live broadcast wasn't meant to get the Avengers to save him, but for Nian. To be more precise, it was for Nian's 3-in-1 mode, the Black Kitten. Chapter 263 The Avengers' Shocking Change. Nian, you said it was coming for you. What does that even mean? Gwen, clad in a form-fitting nano-spider suit, the spider patterns on her back and front contrasting against the gleaming metal, glanced at Nian, bewildered, ready for battle. Nian spread his hands and said, "The Black Kitten I just mentioned is the combination of me, Zio Wong, and the symbiote Venom. I once used that 3-in-1 ability mode to eliminate the 3 symbiotes that invaded the Earth." Spider-Woman Gwen recalled, "It was the night when you, Kara, and I came to New York for a trip." "Yes." Nian nodded, his face slightly gloomy. "I thought that all the symbiotes except Venom had been eliminated." Unexpectedly, after a while, Venom once again vaguely sensed the presence of a similar symbiote. He paused and continued, "That symbiote hid in the human world, and Venom could not know its location. Of course, it could not accurately detect Venom's location until you and I came to downtown New York that night." Gwen was shocked and said, "So, rather than saying that Eddie's man is exposing himself, it is better to say that it wants to take this opportunity to lure you out." "That's right. If that Eddie had already been controlled by the symbiote Carnage, everything would make sense." Nian narrowed his eyes. "It knows I want to eliminate it, and it also knows I'm its greatest threat. Whether it's for revenge or to clear an obstacle, it wants to find me. For itself, and for the symbiote community." Just then, Alice's voice suddenly rang out from the top-floor office. "Master, Iron Man and Thor have appeared in Queens, New York, and have engaged the symbiote Carnage." Nian and Gwen exchanged a glance. "This is bizarre," Gwen asked in surprise. Nian, "If Carnage's true target is you, the Trinity, then why did it mention the Avengers during the live stream? That plea for help just now was more like a challenge, using absurd pressure to pressure the Avengers into taking action quickly. It's indeed bizarre." Nian's eyes flickered in thought, feeling like he'd overlooked something crucial. After all, if the symbiote Carnage had fabricated its host's accusations and self-exposure solely to lure the Trinity into action, there would have been no need to provoke a fight with the Avengers. Unless, is there something within the Avengers that the Carnage symbiote is after? forcing them to engage in combat. Oh no. Nian's face paled as a sudden thought struck him, a terrifying one. Gwen, you can contact Iron Man Tony Stark, right? Nian said quickly, looking at Spider-Woman beside him. Yes, Spider-Woman nodded. I have his number, and since it's an Avenger calling, the AI Jax will notify him directly. Call him immediately. Nian clenched his fists and said gravely, they've been tricked. If they let Carnage achieve what he wants, it'll be too late. Elsewhere, in Queens, New York, in the middle of Fanfic Street, a blazing white laser instantly pierced halfway through the busy street. A bucket-sized bolt of purple thunder, like divine punishment, shattered the ground below. Lasers, thunder. Iron Man, a deity paragon in New York, and Thor, the mythical god of thunder, both vented their frustrations with a display of high-quality superheroic demeanor. Hiss, sizzle. Under the night, the white and purple lights vanished from the inner streets. A 30-meter-long straight trench appeared on the road ahead of Iron Man and Thor. The laser-damaged trench's end had sunk 2 meters downward, radiating outward 10 meters like a spiderweb. The sunken ground revealed a startling, charred pit. Between the trench's end and the pit's center, a hideous, 3-meter-tall humanoid monster, seemingly pulverized into paste, transformed into a wriggling mass of crimson goo. Fact proved it. All fear stems from insufficient firepower. It looks ugly, let's get rid of it, Iron Man said bluntly. Alright, Thor shrugged, appearing relaxed and casual. Then, snap, as if Carnage could no longer maintain his symbiotic form, the crimson goo dissolved, revealing the figure of a man within. Iron Man and Thor observed closely. Recognizing Eddie, the man who had just live-streamed his plea for life, he was engulfed in agony, his head thrust upward in a frantic struggle. Help, save me. I'll do it. Thor raised his Stormbreaker. A hurricane of wind whipped up, his red cape fluttering as he flew forward at breakneck speed. Approaching the crimson slime, Thor swung his Stormbreaker downward, a powerful gust erupting nearby, stripping more of the stringy slime from Eddie. As he flew through the air, his other hand grasped Eddie's arm, pulling him out of the slime mass. Gurgling. Having lost Eddie as its host, the crimson slime in the pit squirmed restlessly. Before it could escape the lightning zone, another white laser and small missile descended. Boom. The powerful white laser instantly pierced the air and earth, detonating the missile, indiscriminately destroying everything around it. The scarlet goo was abruptly wiped away, leaving not a single speck of slime behind. That's it. Tony Stark, inside the nanosuit, curled his lips and muttered to himself, this is far worse than that cat. Hey, buddy, are you alright? Thor, holding Eddie in one hand and Stormbreaker in hand, slowly landed on the street. No, I'm fine. Eddie, pale and exhausted, collapsed to the ground. The battle lasted only a few minutes. Not even a warm-up. Thor, even feeling a little bored, said to Iron Man, let's go back for a few more drinks. I'll keep you company, Iron Man nodded with a smile. But then, the words of the artificial intelligence Jarvis echoed from the nanosuit, announcing on the armor's built-in display, Sir, you've got a call. Who's there? Tony Stark raised an eyebrow. Gwen. Oh, her? Spider-Woman wasn't just someone she dug up herself. Tony Stark also held this young hero in high regard, showing great confidence and high hopes. Iron Man immediately gave the order, got it. Mr. Stark. Gwen's anxious voice echoed through the nano-armor's voice port. Tony Stark quickly responded, what's wrong, little one? Aren't you going on a date with your boyfriend this weekend? If you're referring to what happened in New York, I just dealt with it. Mr. Stark, listen to me. Gwen said quickly, after being fused with the symbiote for so long, once it completely controls the host, there's absolutely no hope. Once it leaves the symbiote, the host will also die. If the host isn't dead, it means the symbiote is still alive, living within them. Just as Gwen was delivering the intelligence via the phone, Thor glanced up, as if noticing something, and saw a figure in war clothes appear around the corner in the dust and smoke. The man waved after seeing Iron Man and Thor. It was Dr. Banner. This guy's so slow. Thor couldn't help but laugh and wave back, it's over. No one noticed. Meanwhile, Eddie, lying on the ground, twitched slightly, his eyes a pale, pupilless white. He shifted from his prone position to a strange, crawling posture on all fours. KO. Eddie suddenly sprinted from the spot, charging like a wild animal towards the approaching Dr. Banner. Stop him. No, kill him. Iron Man, having learned the intelligence from Gwen, shouted with incredible speed. Thor was stunned at first, but, trusting Tony's judgment, he swiftly threw his Stormbreaker. In that moment, it was like a race. Eddie and Stormbreaker, sprinting, one in front of the other, approached Dr. Banner, not far away. Dr. Banner instinctively raised his arms to shield his head, his face and arms turning visibly green. Approaching. Eddie suddenly leaped toward Dr. Banner. With only 3 meters remaining, Stormbreaker was still faster. With a swish, the Stormbreaker struck Eddie in midair, cleaving him in two. The wound was a thread like scarlet, devoid of any blood. The Stormbreaker, carrying Eddie's 2 halves, flew through the air beside Dr. Banner's shoulders. Dr. Banner took a deep breath, glanced back at the halved, motionless body, and sighed with relief. It's a good thing I almost lost my temper. His fear had never been of the enemy, but of turning green in anger in the absence of one. Snap! Iron Man landed beside Dr. Banner, raised his nano-armored hands, and fired a laser beam from each, completely destroying both halves of Eddie's body. Are you alright, Banner? Thor strode forward. It's okay. Dr. Banner shook his head. You were the ones who almost got hurt. Iron Man. Thor. Indeed. If the enemy hadn't let the Hulk vent his anger, the two of them would have had a sparring match. Of course. Iron Man and Thor, working together, were still confident they could suppress the Hulk, but who knew how much of the building would be destroyed? This time, it should be solved, right? Thor looked at the surface, where only Stormbreaker remained, and looked up at Iron Man. How did you know that thing was still alive just now? If he hadn't known in advance, he would have reacted faster than Iron Man. It was Gwen. She called me and told me, Iron Man said. Oh, Gwen. Dr. Banner nodded. He too was very optimistic about this almost impeccable student. Gwen. Thor had only just arrived on Earth today and was unaware of the Avengers expansion. Never mind. Now that it's over, let's go back and have a drink. Thor smiled, patting Dr. Banner on the shoulder and about to walk past him to retrieve his hammer. But at that moment, something unexpected happened. Bang! Thor, who had just taken a step, was suddenly blasted away and slammed into a commercial building on the street. His silver-armored body smashed through several walls and disappeared into them, sending a wave of rubble and dust pouring out from the building's entrance. Iron Man's eyes widened in shock, watching the close-up image clearly displayed on the armor's built-in display. A green, inhuman fist slowly descended, its arm muscles expanding 3 or 4 times their original size, protruding with terrifyingly strong veins. Crack! His work shirt, pants, and shoes were instantly ruptured by the expanding green muscles. The human body, originally slightly shorter than Iron Man, expanded to a massive, 2-meter-tall, voluptuous being in less than 2 seconds. All that was visible were powerful, green muscles. A faint resemblance to Dr. Banner could be seen within his hideous, green face. Hot white steam emanated from his nostrils and mouth. The Hulk, out! Iron Man, looking at the muscular green creature before him, instinctively took a step back, his tone far less relaxed than before. Banner, didn't you say you almost did it? Why did you let it out again? This isn't a joke at all. Send it back. I can't do it. Banner transformed from his human form into the Hulk, wearing only a pair of shorts. He clutched his head and cried out in pain. Why can't I do it? Iron Man asked, puzzled. Besides the original one, there's another one inside me, Banner spoke no more, completely transforming into the Hulk. At the same time, the Hulk's eyes glowed in a motionless white, and crimson tentacles of liquid flowed from his green body, enveloping the entire inhuman mass. Damn it, it's it. Inside the nanosuit, Tony Stark's face changed dramatically, instantly realizing everything. Just now, Eddie had indeed been utterly killed, but the symbiote within him had taken the opportunity to attach itself to Banner. Haha, this body is truly amazing as a host. The symbiote, Carnage, who had entered Banner's body, was ecstatic. Previously, Carnage had considered choosing between Iron Man and Thor. Iron Man's nano-metal armor made it difficult to penetrate, and Tony Stark's ordinary physique wouldn't significantly enhance his strength. The symbiote's strength was directly tied to its host. So, Carnage had already considered attaching himself to Thor. Despite the enormous risk of failure against a deity like Thor, he decided to give it a try. Carnage knew full well that Eddie's strength as a host wasn't enough to eliminate his greatest threat, the Black Kitten. After all, Black Kitten was a target of revenge embedded in his genes since birth. That immense, transcendental strength was deeply ingrained in his consciousness. He needed to parasitize a more powerful being to even stand a chance against Black Kitten. Just before Carnage decided to forcibly attach himself to Thor, Dr. Banner appeared. From Dr. Banner, the symbiote Carnage felt an unprecedented temptation, his racial genes instinctively responding. The other party, as a host, was undoubtedly 10 times more suitable than Thor. Without hesitation, Carnage shifted his parasite target from Thor to Dr. Banner. The moment he attached himself to Dr. Banner, Carnage understood why Banner held such a strong allure for him. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264, Massacre Hulk, The Collapse Begins. Wonderful, this body. The symbiote Carnage, now attached to Dr. Banner's body, was filled with immense pleasure. Banner's consciousness was quickly overwhelmed by the Hulk's personality. Dr. Banner, the original host, was eliminated first, leaving the Hulk and Carnage to vie for control of the symbiote's body. This struggle was also reflected in the symbiote's body. Carnage, the Hulk, one side was filled with utter evil, the other with boundless rage. Jarvis, activate soundproofing mode and turn down the external radio. Tony Stark gritted his teeth. Roger that, sir. Under the control of the artificial intelligence, Jarvis, Tony Stark finally felt a little better. But he could only watch helplessly as the Hulk and Carnage's symbiotic relationship unfolded, a crimson, sentient, viscous fluid oozing from their bodies. The flexible, stringy crimson liquid coated the green form, thick with muscular knots, from top to bottom. The Hulk roared in anger, instinctively reaching out to grab at the crimson goo, trying to shake it off, only to have his hands stained with it as well. Covering, intertwining, merging. Even as his rage continued to rise, his resistance began to weaken. The Hulk's eyes gradually took on a ferocious, cold blood red, his already sturdy green frame now adorned with a layer of crimson bones. No, it wasn't pure crimson, more like a mixture of crimson and green, a hardened, dark red. Dark crimson barbs burst from his back like dorsal fins. Inhumanly huge and strong. Infinitely furious and evil. He looked similar to the abomination that had appeared before, but in both appearance and aura, he was far more terrifying. A sizzling sound. As if overflowing with rage, the 3-meter-tall symbiote's dark crimson body heated up, emanating wisps of astonishingly hot steam. Indeed, one of the symbiote's weaknesses was high-temperature flames. Yet, the Carnage Hulk, under the ever-increasing fury, had developed a high-temperature constitution. Iron Man gasped, unable to utter his usual teasing, his mind tense as never before. Enormous and crimson, solid and warm. The Carnage Hulk, standing before him, looked like a creature from hell. This is really bad. Jarvis, mobilize the Hulkbuster immediately. Tony Stark commanded with forced calm. But before he could finish his words, he abruptly stopped. A few meters ahead. Hurry. The steam-shrouded Carnage Hulk roared like thunder, its blood-red eyes suddenly fixed on Iron Man. Without hesitation, Tony Stark pressed his palms down, and the engines in the nano-armor's limbs erupted, sending him shooting upward like a stream of crimson light. Without the enhanced, heavyweight Hulkbuster armor, Tony Stark didn't want to confront the Carnage Hulk head-on. In an instant, Iron Man had soared to a height of over 100 meters above the city. Glancing down, through the auxiliary screen built into his nanomedal armor, he could see the Hulk sinking down below, crouching and gathering strength. No way. Iron Man thought, startled. The next moment, bang. The ground in the middle of the highway was crushed, a 10-meter radius of ground giving way. A massive, powerful figure blurred, then appeared directly in front of Iron Man. A trail of white smoke shot skyward, looming in the night sky. This was 200 meters high. Tony Stark, stunned, instinctively raised his armor's right arm. The AI, Jarvis, coordinated the nanomedal formation to create a metal shield. As the shield formed, a dark red fist the size of a basketball crashed down onto the smooth, hard surface. Boom. The air exploded, and the pressure was disrupted. The nanoshield shattered like glass. The fist didn't land directly on the nanosuit, but the shockwave it created sent Iron Man plummeting downward. Like a falling miniature meteor, Iron Man plummeted, smashing through buildings on both sides of the street. Carnage Hulk's eyes were filled with fury as his massive, dark red body plummeted from the rooftop of a tall building, piercing through the entire structure and reaching the ground below. It wasn't Carnage, the symbiote, or even the Hulk's consciousness, that now controlled this body. It was the ultimate symbiote monster, driven by rage and evil, who instinctively killed everything it saw. White lights from the metal eye sockets and chest energy tanks lit up from the rubble of the building. 39% armor damage. Iron Man reclined on a pair of concrete rubble, listening to the warnings of the AI Jarvis. Looking down, he could see cracks all over his nanosuit. Fortunately, thanks to its nanometal construction, the suit had already been repaired by nanoparticles. Yet the damage was still unexpectedly severe. Such terrifying power. Is that really the limit of physical strength? The Hulk was already a monster among monsters, and now the Carnage Hulk. If it weren't for the nanoshield's cushioning, I'd be dead. Tony Stark smiled bitterly. This was truly a disaster. He had never expected such a formidable monster to emerge. In about a second, Iron Man's nano-armor was repaired to as good as new, but Tony Stark knew he no longer had enough nanometal to open the shield. To open the nanoshield, he would have to peel the nanometal from the suit's head or other body parts. But exposing an ordinary human body to such an unimaginable physical strength would be tantamount to suicide. Before Iron Man could even consider it, with a sound of bang, 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 the shattered walls of the building ahead shattered simultaneously, and a dark red figure approached. Damn it. Jarvis, fire now. Iron Man didn't even have time to stand up. He hurriedly raised his palms, and energy storage devices emerged from his back, suspending the previously enhanced laser cannon. Fire. Boom. A laser beam as bright as daylight pierced through the air in dust waves, striking the chest of the oncoming Carnage Hulk. Snap. Carnage Hulk's steps paused. Yes, just a brief pause. Then, bearing the powerful laser beam, he continued to march forward, each step shaking the ground below. The laser beam was like a stream of flame, washing over Carnage Hulk's body, flowing along the blocky dark red bones and overflowing from the hideous dorsal fin on his back. Gurgling. It was like a drop of crimson liquid melting and falling to the ground, but it had no effect on Carnage Hulk's huge body, and it continued to recover rapidly under the power of the main body. Carnage Hulk approached Iron Man, bearing the laser beam. You gave me a good beating just now, didn't you? A towering figure draped in a red cape and silver armor swooped forward from behind Carnage Hulk. Thor's dark gold hair flew wildly. He raised his right hand, Stormbreaker, and struck Carnage Hulk with the end of his axe. Crack! With a burst of gusts of wind, the Stormbreaker struck Carnage Hulk's neck, leaving Thor stunned. The Stormbreaker's blade sank slightly into Carnage Hulk's exoskeleton, then refused to penetrate further. Thor instinctively pulled at the Stormbreaker, but it remained stuck in the exoskeleton. This. Thor's scalp tingled. He looked up in surprise, meeting Carnage Hulk's gaze. Come on. Thor shouted, swiftly swinging his sandbag-sized left fist, taking the initiative. Carnage Hulk returned the attack with a punch. Fist to fist. The large and small fists collided. Bang! Thor flew out again, blood splattering, and he was blasted hundreds of meters away. He crashed through countless buildings along the way, showering countless rubble onto the modern streets next door. The people in the neighboring streets hadn't yet evacuated. They watched Thor lying unconscious at the intersection, his muscular left arm, where he'd just exchanged blows with a Hulk, covered in blood. They instantly heard screams of despair. If even the Avengers couldn't handle it, who else in this city could? Thor lay on the ground, wounded and exhausted, his eyes drooping as he stared at the night sky. His wounded body slowly gushed with electricity. In a mystical way, Thor seemed to hear his father's words echoing in his ears. They were the words his father had spoken to him after he'd lost his hammer and been defeated by Prince. No matter what, you must remember what flows within you. After Thor had been blasted away, the laser beams gradually weakened, seemingly running out of energy, until the white light vanished from the ruins. Iron Man hastily rose from the rubble, staring at the dark red monster reflected on the screen. Ignoring the stormhammer stuck in his neck, the Carnage Hulk grinned, blasting hot steam from his nostrils. His fist slammed down on Iron Man with terrifying force. The Hulkbuster armor hadn't yet reached its full potential. Tony Stark's eyes widened. Just at that critical moment, a pentagram-shaped round shield barely blocked his attack. This time, the shield held. It blocked it. Withstanding the impact, the young man in the blue uniform holding the round shield groaned in pain, collided with Iron Man, and flew several meters away. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several arrows struck the Carnage Hulk almost simultaneously, exploding like miniature grenades. A powerful blast engulfed the Hulk's massive form. Bang! Several laser beams were also lost in the blast. Thanks, Steve. Tony Stark stood up and spoke in a deep voice, looking at the shield-bearing young man who had arrived to support them. We're allies. Captain America Steve Rogers shrugged, his right hand, where he held the vibranium buckler, aching slightly, and his brow furrowed. What the hell is that big guy? It's Banner. No, not exactly him. Iron Man sighed, looking ahead. Also arriving to support were a male agent carrying a special quiver, and a charming woman in black leather armor wielding a laser pistol. Hawkeye, Clinton Francis Barton, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. All were heroic members of the Avengers. If you count Thor, who had been blasted away earlier, the original Avengers team was complete. What did you say? That red monster was Banner. Black Widow, not far away, asked incredulously. Hawkeye, also in a state of confusion, pulled a special arrow from his quiver and knocked it on his bow. He's been possessed by the symbiote named Carnage. Now he's completely out of control. Furthermore, his strength, stamina, speed, and reflexes far surpassed the Hulk's. Thor exchanged blows with it, and his fate hangs in the balance. Iron Man's words caused the heroes on the field to change expression, realizing the gravity of the situation. This could be even more difficult than the previous Battle of New York. After all, the evil god Loki is no match for the current Carnage Hulk. As if to confirm Iron Man's words, a sizzling white steam erupted from the blast wave, sending the temperature soaring within a 10-meter radius. A massive body, seemingly scorched by fire, emerged from it, its blood-red eyes scanning the crowd. This was truly the beginning of a complete collapse. Even if they tried to escape, it was too late. Go. At least hold it back here. Besides, we don't have to lose. Captain America said gravely. Iron Man, Hawkeye, and Black Widow nodded simultaneously. Now, in the top-floor office of the Future Chronicle, Nian and Gwen gazed out the window together, seeing a blazing fire erupting in a section of New York City, its boundless flames reaching toward the sky. Gwen, have you made up your mind? Nian asked. Yes, I'm going, Spider-Woman nodded firmly. Then go ahead. Nian didn't try to stop her. Her short, dazzling golden hair spread across the room. Spider-Woman removed her suit's hood, reaching out to Nian's arms, her lips offering a small, soft, sweet kiss. Nian had recently acquired his spider gene abilities, so this wasn't meant to trigger them. After a heated exchange, Spider-Woman, breathing slightly faster, pushed the boy away. The nanosuit's hood had her rosy cheeks, severing a shimmering silver thread down the middle. Then I'm leaving. Wait here for me. With these words, Spider-Woman opened the window and, as if diving, gracefully and swiftly plunged into the vast night outside. How could I possibly wait for you here? Nian wiped the red mark from the corner of his mouth, shook his head, and turned to look at the little orange cat on the sofa. Are you ready? You too. Meow. Little Emperor responded with high morale. I can't wait any longer. Venom whispered hoarsely. Then let's go together. Nian's eyes sparkled, and he felt a little excited. What kind of changes would happen after gaining the spider's abilities and then entering the 3-in-1 state? Chapter 265 I Am Deadpool Online. New York City, Queens. The streets of Dreamfield have become a transcendent battlefield. The earth rumbles and the sky burns. Residents from neighboring streets have evacuated, cars and people fleeing towards the city 5 kilometers away. The roads leading out are thronged, and the closer one gets to the heart of the battle, the more the city becomes like a no-man's land. A white boy, backpack saddled, deftly scrambles across the cordon, carefully blending into the city streets that have suddenly become a war zone. Peter Parker, fresh out of school, ducks down, his still-grown frame, and enters the dark, deserted alley. With a slightly awkward scramble, he climbs the alley's walls like a spider, scrambling to the top 10 stories above, peering around. He looks out. Dreamfield, the scene of the battle, has lost power. Everything is pitch black, except for the once bustling commercial area, where the flames burn, a striking sight. From the ruined battlefield, a scene resembling hell, the sounds of fierce fighting and deafening roars emanated faintly. That astonishing roar was definitely not human-like, or even utterly unattainable by any living creature on Earth. Even within a few hundred meters, Peter Parker felt a wave of breathlessness, goosebumps breaking out all over his body. Boom! As he watched in horror, a multi-story building in the battlefield ahead toppled over, and a dark red creature, resembling a demon from hell, burst forth from beneath. Its rage emanated billowing clouds of scorching smoke, and in one hand, it lifted a 2-meter-tall, multi-layered Iron Man. It's Iron Man. Peter Parker's eyes widened, and the next scene chilled him to the bone. The Carnage Hulk roared, and with a deep crimson hand, he grabbed the shorter Iron Man, tearing his arms apart. The armored Iron Man instantly split in two, the tear in the middle pulsing with electricity as it disintegrated into two horrific pieces of scrap metal. Peter Parker breathed a sigh of relief when the Iron Man's cockpit was empty. On the battlefield, Tony Stark, clad in nano armor, hid behind a wall. He watched through an auxiliary screen as the Hulkbuster was ripped apart by the Carnage Hulk. He quickly called out, "Jarvis, detonate that Hulkbuster." He had just given the detonation command when, not far away, the energy channels on one section of the steel torso, still held tightly in the Carnage Hulk's grasp, lit up. With a bang, like an energy bomb, it exploded. Everything within a 5-meter radius was instantly reduced to ash. But before the blast wave could subside, a 3-meter tall figure remained standing at the center of the explosion. Carnage Hulk unfazed, a dark red foot stepped forward. His massive, ferocious body allowed itself to be washed away by the energy, crushing the ground beneath its feet. This was already the third Hulkbuster suit to be destroyed. Far from being able to suppress the opponent, it seemed to have only infuriated him. Tony Stark, through the Hulkbuster's remote combat feedback, could clearly see that Carnage Hulk's power was constantly increasing, his body temperature soaring from over 100 degrees Celsius to a scorching 200 or 300. Carnage Hulk, growing stronger with each battle. Meanwhile, Captain, can you still fight? Iron Man asked over the comms. A few dozen meters away, in a ruined area, the rubble broke apart. A disheveled Captain America rose from the rubble. His left hand, clutching the vibranium shield, trembled. He felt the shield hadn't cracked, but he himself had nearly shattered. Captain America spat out a mouthful of blood-stained saliva and said resolutely, "Of course, I can keep fighting like this all day." "Natasha, Clint." Iron Man continued to confirm. Black Widow's voice was weak. "I'm injured. Clint's holding me up. We're at the edge of the battlefield. My ammunition's almost out," Clint replied with a hint of bitterness. Their physical abilities were only slightly above average, but with the skills of top-tier agents, they were practically treading the realm of the extraordinary. In the past, facing ordinary humans, whether soldiers, agents, assassins, or mercenaries from powerful nations, they were unstoppable. They even faced alien soldiers with no fear. But facing the Carnage Hulk, whose individual combat power was many times greater than the Hulk's, they were overwhelmed. "We need backup," Captain America said gravely. "Support." Iron Man paused, then said, "Jarvis, bring X-007. "Sir, are you sure?" Yes, sir." After the AI Jarvis confirmed the command, a small rocket launched from Stark Industries. It sped across half of Queens, arriving directly above the battlefield to drop an airdrop. Bang! The small container airdrop landed near Carnage Hulk. The container's door was shattered and warped, emitting a foul stench of decay. KO. The warped container door was kicked open. From within emerged a mysterious man dressed in a tight red leather jacket, a red hood with white ties, and two samurai swords slung across his shoulders. As he emerged, he grumbled, "Is there a safer way to summon? I almost got crushed to death." Noticing the light blocked by something in front of him, the mysterious man looked up curiously and saw the 3-meter-tall, ferocious, and steaming Carnage Hulk standing before him. He waved, "Good evening. My name is Deadpool. What's your name?" With a thud, Carnage Hulk flattened the mysterious man, flattening him flat, and the ground, along with it, collapsed 3 meters downward. Quick in appearance, quick in death. "Tony, that backup you've summoned." Captain America was speechless for a moment, but then a look of surprise crossed his face. After beating his opponent to death, the Hulk turned around, and the dent in his palm behind him murmured, "Is it polite to beat someone to pulp on our first meeting?" With a whoosh, a samurai sword slashed downwards, diagonally and precisely, piercing the Hulk's hips. "Hey, it won't go in. What kind of monster are you?" Deadpool exclaimed in amazement. Bang! As if to kill me, I'll die in front of you. Deadpool was crushed to death again, his body completely flattened. Under the Hulk's foot, an unpleasant sizzling smell emanated. But soon, Deadpool was back to his feet, bouncing around like a cockroach, unstoppable. To Captain America's surprise, the exoskeleton punctured by the katana hadn't repaired as before. That weapon. Captain America narrowed his eyes at this subtle observation. Iron Man explained, that's a blade made of carbon steel, capable of suppressing the healing factor of others. While carbon steel can be artificially created, its rarity is second only to the vibranium used to make your shield. What's even more surprising is the guy you found, Captain America asked. Is he a new member of our alliance? An intern, Iron Man said reluctantly. At that moment, both the men simultaneously noticed something and looked up. From the air, a slender, graceful female figure descended, lingering on the outer wall of one of the few buildings left on the battlefield. The first intern has arrived, Captain America declared. This truly assembles the Avengers. Iron Man relaxed slightly, but the next moment, his eyes widened, his pupils constricting, his body and mind tensing. A seemingly ordinary black kitten had appeared out of nowhere, perched on the rooftop next to Spider-Woman. Its feline eyes quietly observed the battle below, a human-like glint of wisdom gleaming in them. Chapter 266, Trinity and the Carnage Hulk. The city area where the Carnage Hulk roamed was filled with an extremely terrifying aura of creatures. Not to mention animals. Among humans, except for beings who had fully traversed the realm of the supernatural, no one dared approach or linger in this area. But right now, on the rooftop of a building beside the highway where the Carnage Hulk was, a seemingly ordinary black kitten quietly crouched, its golden eyes pausing for a moment on Deadpool's blades below. Tony, is that it? Captain America asked curiously. Yes, it is. Tony Stark, in his nano-armored suit, clenched his fists. How could Iron Man be mistaken? He'd cornered him twice before. Even the name and profile of Black Flash were created by him personally. It doesn't look completely black. Besides, is Black Flash really that powerful? Captain America had reviewed the intelligence files on Black Flash. It's rare for someone to be able to defeat Iron Man twice in a row. Tony Stark had noticed it too. The kitten's paws and feet were white, not the all-black Black Flash of old. And there was something else. The cat's eyes, no longer the violent and sinister look they once had, now seemed to be contemplating something, a look of human wisdom. There's no mistake. It must be it. Iron Man was certain of this. After all, the size was exactly the same. From a distant building, a tall building gazed upon the battlefield. Peter Parker, watching Spider-Woman arrive at the scene, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. That feeling, is that Cousin Gwen? He muttered to himself, strange. Why, besides Cousin Gwen, there's another familiar presence. At the edge of the battlefield, Hawkeye supported the wounded Black Widow out of the battle. Just then, from the night-shrouded street ahead, a young female agent, also wearing a black leather uniform, emerged. You're here, Skye? Natasha's eyes shone with surprise. The director said it would be better if I came here to provide support. Skye smiled faintly. You two should stay outside the battlefield. Don't let anyone take advantage of the situation. Now, on the battlefield. Even with his carbon steel blades, the immortal Deadpool was nothing more than a mess. He couldn't inflict significant damage on the Hulk, but he still managed to disgust him. The result was this: the Hulk's rage intensified, his enormous, ferocious body blazing red, radiating intense heat. Sizzle. White steam spread across the road, followed by crimson flames, igniting the Hulk's skin. Hiss. Puff. Hiss. Dark crimson tentacles, laced with flames, erupted from behind, dancing wildly. Like a true hellfire monster from hell. Now, even Deadpool, constantly healing and resurrecting, couldn't get close to the Hulk. The moment he stood back up, he would be whisked away by the crimson tentacles. He had no business fighting. Suddenly, the enraged Hulk froze, his blood-red eyes fixed on a kitten. He ignored the closer Spider-Woman, so his attention was focused on the black kitten. For Carnage, it was a case of enemies meeting with envy, hatred woven into his genes from birth. For the Hulk, the black kitten exuded a murderous aura that made him crave a fight. Even the willless Hulk was drawn to the black kitten. Finally, have you noticed me? Atop the rooftop, the black kitten wagged its tail. Wasn't that the 3-in-1 Nian? a symbiotic union of Nian, venom, and the Devourer Emperor. But, unlike before, this time, Gwen's spider gene abilities were also incorporated. Just as Nian had imagined, the previously uncontrollable, violent, and evil triad had finally stabilized. The inherent characteristics of the spider powers helped Nian master the abilities of Venom and Emperor, as well as the current symbiotically combined form. Rather than a 3-in-1, this time, it felt more like 3 powers in 1. Let's end this quickly, thought the Trinity's Nian. The opponent clearly possessed a stacking buff trait that grew stronger the more angry they became. Suddenly, the black kitten moved and vanished from the rooftop. The next moment, it mysteriously appeared above Carnage Hulk's head. Captain America, with his exceptional dynamic vision, and Iron Man, aided by his on-screen vision, could only see a faint black flash. "Aren't you looking for me? Here I come, cub." As the black kitten appeared, it slammed its claws directly onto Carnage Hulk's head. The instant it landed, the tiny white paw expanded and deformed to become even larger than Carnage Hulk's head. Bang! Just like the superheroes Carnage Hulk had previously swatted away, this time, Carnage Hulk was cleanly and efficiently swatted down. The terrifying power contained in that paw was unimaginable. The ground beneath Carnage Hulk's feet was the first to crack, unable to withstand it. Layers of the surface cracked. The 3-meter-tall Carnage Hulk sank deeply into the earth, leaving a bottomless pit in its place. Zzz! The water in the underground sewer seemed to be boiling at high temperatures, transforming into a city hot spring. White smoke continuously poured out from the pit. With a thud, the earth shook. The intact surface of the road behind the black kitten cracked, and Carnage Hulk suddenly leaped from the depths of the earth. Wrapped in high-temperature steam, a giant dark red fist blasted forward like a cannonball. The Trinity's Nian spun quickly, and his inflated cat claws also swung out a punch. Similar to Thor's previous blow, the same fist-to-fist exchange. But this time, when the two fists met, it was like two missiles colliding and exploding in close proximity. The air instantly exploded, and a scorching hurricane swept out. Whether it was the Carnage Hulk in his enraged state or the Trinity with his layered physique, in terms of physical strength alone, they had reached or even exceeded the level of ordinary Kryptonians. Deadpool, who had recovered himself nearby, was flung back 10 meters away. He watched the black kitten locked in close combat with the Hulk, shaking his head and whistling, "Another complete monster. Damn it. I'm done with this, okay." Deadpool picked up 2 carbon steel blades and shouldered them, stopping mid-stride to gaze back at the Stormbreaker abandoned on the highway. Every collision unleashed a roar, a hurricane, heat waves, and shock waves. The close combat between these peak physical prowess caused the damage on the city streets to expand at a visible rate. "Tony, are you sure you've escaped such a being twice?" Captain America stood in the gusting wind, awestruck. Iron Man was speechless. In his opinion, the opponent was even stronger than before. Chapter 267 The Strongest Avengers. Peter Parker, eyes wide open, crouched on the rooftop, watching the battle. Whoosh, whoosh. His short, slightly curly hair blew high. A hurricane, carrying waves of heat, swept outward, its brutal cold and heat felt miles away. Bang! 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 In Queens, New York City, the streets of Dreamfield shook like an earthquake. It was hard to imagine what kind of battle this was. Beneath the night, above the flames, a 3-meter-tall, dark red giant, blazing with flames, radiated a fierce aura and waves of rage. Like a terrifying monster from hell described in myth, even a glimpse of it from afar filled one with utter fear. Its stomping grounds wailed, its hands tore through its armor, and it leaped hundreds of meters high. Its forward impact reduced half a street's worth of buildings to rubble. Even the Avengers were powerless to withstand it. But now, facing it, a black kitten. Yes, the black kitten was barely larger than an adult's palm, but compared to the 3-meter-tall Hulk, the size difference was over 10 times. What astonished some of the Avengers was that the black kitten and Hulk were evenly matched, with the kitten even having a clear advantage. Bang! With a furious roar, Hulk sent the black kitten flying with his fist. The kitten instantly pierced through several buildings like a bullet. The next moment, the black kitten, completely unscathed, darted forward like a streak of black light, using its body to single-handedly slam Hulk into the ground. Hulk's massive frame buckled under the impact, plowing a 100-meter deep furrow across the road. Deadpool, still standing on the road, was caught off guard and flung back, half his body limp. Wong. Carnage Hulk's blood-red eyes seemed to blaze with flames. His bloated, dark red hand moved with incredible speed, snatching up the black kitten pressing against his abdomen. Another hand, blazing with intense flames, also reached out, attempting to crush the kitten with both hands. The Trinity-like Nian remained unmoved, allowing it to crush him without a second thought. His current strength and speed weren't at their peak. After all, they were merely the combined powers of his spider powers, the symbiote, and the devourer. And as for his combined physical defenses, he still had Nian's own perfect steel body. Crack, crack, crack. Carnage Hulk's dark red bones and muscles expanded to their fullest extent. He used all his strength to grasp the black kitten in his palms. With his fury, he pushed past the limits of the Hulk and the symbiote. Even standing there, gathering strength, cracks appeared on the ground beneath his feet. Under the continued pressure of such terrifying force, even a vibranium shield might be slightly dented and deformed. But from the gaps between Carnage Hulk's palms, a black cat tail emerged, swaying gently and gently. Roar! Carnage Hulk roared, his exoskeleton and muscles expanding as if inflated, his dark red palms slowly closing inward. Crack! The sound of fractures resounded like thunder in the center of the battlefield. Carnage Hulk's palms twisted and deformed as if broken, his blood-red eyes vacant at that moment. The black kitten leaped unscathed from the massive, fractured palms. You were the one who struck first. Don't you know that force is mutual? The triple-in-one Nian's cat eyes blinked. Then, the triple-in-one Nian's cat tail suddenly stretched forward, wrapping around Carnage Hulk's neck like a chain, binding his dark red arms to his sturdy waist. Although the symbiote venom feared intense flames, the outermost layer of the exoskeleton was protected by the symbiote's Nian steel body. It could withstand the heat. The 3-in-1 cat's tail suddenly tightened, pinning the Hulk to the spot. The Hulk reached out to grab the tail, but his efforts were unsuccessful, and he began to struggle violently, shattering the city's very ground. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Threads of white silk also descended upon the Hulk's body. The girl's nimble figure swung between the buildings next to the Hulk, continuously shooting out white silk that entwined the Hulk's body. The reinforced white silk was fireproof, and while it could still be broken by the Hulk, it was still enough to slow him down. "Tony, let's go too," Captain America said, raising his vibranium shield and taking a deep breath. "All right." Iron Man understood that with the extraordinary strength Black Flash had displayed tonight, if he truly wanted to kill him, he wouldn't have been able to escape on his previous 2 attempts. Fortunately, Black Flash was on their side. At least, tonight. The 2 men moved simultaneously. Captain America, carrying his vibranium shield, rushed out to help stop the Hulk's advance. Iron Man swooped down, firing lasers and cannonballs at the Hulk. Even if they couldn't inflict damage, they were enough to increase the pressure. Roar! Black Kitten's immense suppression, coupled with the increasing amount of reinforced spider silk covering his body, made the Hulk's resistance increasingly difficult. Then, with a thud, dark red tentacles erupted frantically from the Hulk, rooting down and spreading outward like a miniature forest of spikes. The 3-meter-tall monster transformed into terrifying, tentacle-like mass. Spider-Woman, Captain America, and Iron Man were instantly forced back. Only Black Kitten remained motionless, her tail tightly bound to the Hulk's main body. Indeed, the symbiote's liquid form makes it difficult to restrain. However, while it gains enhanced abilities by attaching itself to another, it also has a major drawback. The symbiote's body must be primarily based on the host. So, regardless of how the Hulk transforms, the most important thing is the Hulk, the core host. However, Trinity's Nian was still pondering how to force Carnage out. The Hulk had only recently been possessed by the symbiote, and Carnage wasn't the one leading the charge, so there was still a good chance he could be rescued. That's right. Trinity's Nian had a thought. The symbiote wasn't afraid of fire, but the symbiote had 2 major weaknesses. Just as he was thinking this, thunder roared from the sky, and rain suddenly and without warning fell, extinguishing the raging fires on the city streets. Crackling. A towering figure shrouded in lightning descended from the sky, lightning bolts splitting the dome of the tentacle forest and landing squarely on Carnage's dark red shoulders. Trinity's Nian was slightly surprised. Silver armor, red cape. Wasn't that Thor? But his state wasn't quite right. He was extremely agitated, his body like a power bank. Thor was bare-handed, his eyes piercing, as if awakened, his entire body swirling with electricity. "I am the strongest of the Avengers," Thor split the dark red forest of tentacles, hugged the head of the Hulk, and suppressed him fiercely with divine power and lightning. Chapter 268 Stormhammer Vibranium Shield, the final decision. Dazzling, shocking flashes of lightning blazed across the streets, illuminating the blackout and extinguished flames like daylight. Thor, now fully revived, his eyes intimidating, his towering figure clad in silver armor swirling with electricity. Transformed into a bolt of lightning, he cleaved down the forest of tentacles created by the Carnage Hulk. He clung to the Hulk's massive head, his body crackling with lightning, blasting away the dark red tentacles and liquid surrounding him, suppressing them with his own thunderous might. Coupled with his words, "I am the strongest of the Avengers," there was a genuine sense of divine power turning the tide. Lightning flows within me. Even without Mjolnir, I am still a god who controls lightning. Against the backdrop of lightning, Thor's red cape fluttered, emanating an air of kingship. But his coolness didn't last for even 3 seconds. Gulululu. The vast forest of dark crimson tentacles was indeed destroyed by the lightning, but it quickly healed at a visible speed. A large amount of dark crimson liquid oozes from the Carnage Hulk, resisting the corrosive lightning while spreading towards Thor's body. Back off. Thor roars, and the lightning flashes from his body intensify, so that every hair oozes purple-blue electricity. The dark crimson liquid rushing towards Thor from all directions is slightly pushed back by the power of the lightning, but then, as if adapting to it, it suddenly ignores the lightning's accelerated corrosion and spread. The symbiote is only afraid of fire and sound waves, but its resistance to energy is still very strong. What? Thor is stunned. By the time he realizes something is wrong, the viscous dark crimson liquid has already flooded his lower body, swallowing his energy and body like a strange quagmire, connecting him to the enormous Carnage Hulk. It's too late to escape. He watches as the dark crimson liquid begins to spread to his shoulders. Help, give me a hand. Thor's eyes widened. Freshly awakened, his high spirits now pleaded for help. Iron Man. Captain America. Spider-Woman. Deadpool thought this guy was even more ridiculous than himself. I really thought you could do it, Nian, in his black kitten form, scoffed, knowing full well that it was impossible for the symbiote Carnage to use Thor as a backup host. While Nian restrained Carnage Hulk's true form with his cat tail, his golden cat eyes darted around, his spider sense working in tandem, suddenly focusing on 2 objects on the street. One was the hammer being dragged and moved by Deadpool's hands. The other was a round shield that had fallen into the rubble. Borrow it. Nian extended a cat paw to each side of his body. These paws, like white gloves, quickly extended, and he lifted Deadpool's Stormbreaker. With his other right hand, he lifted Captain America's vibranium round shield. Thor was about to be submerged in the dark red liquid. The Trinity, Nian, held his Stormbreaker in his left hand and his vibranium round shield in his right. He suddenly brought the 2 weapons together with all his might, slamming the end of the hammer against the shield's face. Hammer against shield, a superhuman display of Kryptonian strength. At that moment, the entire Dreamfly street fell silent. Then, a deafening, penetrating metallic creak could be heard across half of New York City. Clang. Wow. 1,000 meters away from the battle, Peter Parker clutched his ears, momentarily deafened. Retreating to the edge of the battlefield, Black Widow and Hawkeye simultaneously turned back in shock, gazing at the sky above, where even the night clouds seemed to have been shaken apart. In the center of the battle, an incredibly powerful shockwave erupted nearby, shattering the air, turbulent winds, and the forest of dark red tentacles, unable to materialize, instantly disintegrated. A wave of shockwaves, carrying terrifying sonic waves, struck Carnage Hulk. Unable to move due to the cat's tail's restraints, a large portion of his dark crimson skeleton was unable to maintain its shape. Countless crimson liquid and Thor were the first to be hurled outward. Bang! Thor was slammed into the building wall dozens of meters away. His eyes rolled back, and he was stunned by the sonic and vibrations. This unique blow even affected Nian's Nian, as Venom was particularly vulnerable to it. And Carnage was even more vulnerable. Grunt. Carnage Hulk could no longer maintain his 3-meter-tall, ferocious form. He was like a pool of boiling crimson liquid, with a 2-meter-tall figure of the Hulk faintly visible from within. Nian's Nian, with a thought, wrapped his black cat's tail around the Hulk, attempting to pull him out, but the crimson liquid quickly engulfed and enveloped the Hulk's body. Carnage was unwilling to accept this. You want another blow, don't you? The black kitten, with its human-like form, held a hammer in its left paw and a shield in its right, was about to strike again. "Let me do it, kitten." Suddenly, a familiar female voice echoed in his ears, along with the sound of approaching footsteps. Her dark blonde hair swayed softly, and her graceful figure was clad in a black leather uniform. A young, cool, and beautiful female agent appeared on the ruined street, her delicate face fearless as she stepped forward toward Carnage Hulk. "Call me boss." Nian's cat-like eyes glanced at the female agent, whispering softly in a voice only she could hear, then proactively loosened the cat's tail restraints. The other party was indeed the most suitable to deal with the symbiote. Sky pretended not to hear, her face stern, her usual arrogant and domineering. SSSSSSS. Without the restraints, the dark red liquid mass of Carnage and Hulk fused together began to wriggle, attempting to reunite. Sky raised her palms. Buzz! A slight vibration emanated from the nearby air, growing stronger and stronger, building up. Instead of reaching the ground, it fell forward onto the dark red liquid mass. Buzz! Buzz! Invisible shockwaves rippled outward. The air, the sound, everything vibrated. The vibrations reached the Carnage Hulk's body, shaking and destroying their already unstable forms. If the Carnage Hulk were in full form, perhaps he could withstand the shockwaves. However, after the intense battle with the Black Kitten, and the complete destruction of his symbiotic exoskeleton, he had lost the ability to withstand such special forces. Shockwaves. Seemingly gentle and quiet, almost invisible, they were physically devastating to the attacker. Buzz! The dark red liquid mass was instantly shattered, exploding like a water ball, revealing the Hulk in his shorts. The Hulk, reverting to his human form as Dr. Banner, collapsed onto the devastated street. A faint stream of crimson liquid landed on the ground and fled. The Black Kitten crushed the white one with its front paw, swatting it like an ant. Symbiote slaughter, body death. Chapter 269. I don't want to let Sky and Gwen. The extraordinary battle, reminiscent of a war, came to a close. The modern streets lay in shambles, a 1,000-meter-long city reduced to ruins. At the edge of the street, Peter Parker, perched on the rooftop of a high-rise, lowered his hands from covering his ears. His small eyes were slightly glazed, still processing the unprecedented intensity of the battle. The shock of tonight had been immense, overturning many of his previous perceptions. "I'm far from strong enough to be a superhero," Peter Parker breathed, regaining consciousness only to realize it was already 9 o'clock. Oh no, Aunt May was going to scold him. Peter Parker hurriedly stood up, backpack on his shoulder, and out of the corner of his eye, he spotted two mysterious figures, also gazing down at the battle from another high-rise a few dozen meters away. It was too dark to see clearly, but the outlines were clearly a man and a woman, draped in capes, standing steady against the raging night wind. Peter Parker rubbed his eyes, then looked over there again. There was no figure. On the ruins. After dispatching the symbiote Carnage, the triad Nian was about to leave. Suddenly, Sky swiftly stepped forward and lifted him, the Black Kitten, into her arms. This action stunned everyone present. Even after Carnage Hulk was dealt with, Iron Man hadn't relaxed, keeping a close eye on the Black Kitten, fearing it might turn its attention to the Alliance. Seeing Sky actually pick up Black Flash, he was stunned. "What a great cat. You're a real help." Sky cradled the Black Kitten in her arms, gently stroking its fur. Nian felt quite comfortable, his muscles tensed from the battle relaxing. This is a characteristic of cats, no, should I say, a trait of a young metamorph? With a snap, Spider-Woman landed gracefully on the ground with a somersault in the air, glaring at Sky. "You. What? You want to hold a cat too? I won't let you," Sky said with a faint smile. "Hold, just hold, who cares?" Spider-Woman snorted softly. Beneath her mask, the short-haired girl bit her rosy lips hard. "So cute. I want to hold the invincible black cat, too." Deadpool shamelessly approached. Seeing the Black Kitten's tail sticking up like a whip, he spread his hands and turned away. "Forget it, I'm going home to hug my inflatable doll." Seeing Black Flash seemingly becoming the Avengers' favorite, Iron Man didn't know what to say. He felt like all the losses he'd suffered the previous 2 times had been for nothing. Of course, Black Flash wasn't an enemy, which was a good thing. Iron Man temporarily dropped his guard and went to check on Banner. Captain America ran to the other side of the street and dug the unconscious Thor out of the wall he had sunk into. After no one else noticed, Nian, a 3-in-1 figure, stepped on a sleek leather jacket, his golden cat pupils reflecting Sky's face as he approached. "Has your crisis been resolved in the last incident?" "I guess so," Sky whispered. "Nearly 200 agents died last time. I was locked up for a full half-month, lying in bed to recuperate. Only after the matter was thoroughly investigated was the restraining order lifted and I was released." Nian pondered. The dead were SHIELD agents, but they were also Hydra traitors. "At most, you won't receive an open reward. If you are punished instead, the SHIELD personnel who know the truth will have opinions, and they won't let you take all the blame. There's one thing you didn't expect. The entire SHIELD organization is to blame." Sky sighed. SHIELD has now been officially disbanded. The former director Nick Fury resigned as director of SHIELD after bailing me out. Now, the only ones fighting against Hydra are the Secret Warriors team led by me and the Avengers. Nian shook his head. "You're wrong. I thought of this a long time ago." Sky was slightly taken aback. SHIELD has been plagued by internal turmoil. It's been infiltrated by the enemy since its founding in World War II. Even if it were to be dismantled and reorganized, SHIELD's reputation is already largely tarnished. Nian pondered. "If it were me, I wouldn't continue running SHIELD. I'd wait for the right opportunity to create a new, entirely new organization." Nick Fury probably thinks the same way. By then, it's unclear whether it would be Excalibur or something else. But in any case, it would still be Nick Fury's core team. Nian gazed at her and said, "Sky, you have a long way to go." Sky smiled faintly, already imbued with the aura of a leader, and spoke confidently, "Since we've made this agreement, I'll do my best. No matter what organization it is, I'll be the director." The encounter with Sky was merely a minor incident. With the destruction of the symbiote Carnage, the subsequent events surrounding the symbiote would come to an end. But Nian knew that tomorrow's news reports would undoubtedly spark even greater uproar and heated debate. The threat of alien invasion and the fear of overpowered supernatural beings, these contradictions will continue to intensify in this world. The underside of this world will continue to unfold, overturning all previous understandings. However, none of this concerns Nian. He never cares what others think of him or his supernatural powers. He only does what he believes is right and what he wants to do. After all, Nian is not a superhero, and he bears no responsibility for anyone unrelated to him. The battle is over. He spent the night with Gwen in the top-floor office of Future Chronicle. It wasn't until noon the next day, with the sun high in the blue sky, that Nian and Gwen returned to Washington, each to their respective homes. On the way home, Gwen's face was filled with doubt. It wasn't that she was broken. Rather, she had actually come to love this form of relaxation and entertainment. Wasn't once every 2 weeks too little? Gwen was stunned, startled. Less than half a day had passed, and she was already reminiscing and anticipating the next time. The girl felt truly hopeless. "I'm back." Nian opened the door, returning home. Nian spotted the Crimson Maid, dressed in a tiny dress, standing in the living room, lost in thought, holding a vacuum cleaner. She didn't hear Nian close the door until she quickly put the vacuum cleaner away and went forward to greet him. "Young master, welcome back. What's wrong? What are you thinking about?" Nian asked curiously. Hearing Nian's question, Wanda's soft pink lips pouted, unable to help but speak. "My deskmate is missing." "Isn't your deskmate?" Nian was stunned, then said in a deep voice, "Tell me, when did she start disappearing?" "This past Wednesday, she suddenly didn't come to class. I asked the teacher, but she didn't know." Wanda said worriedly, "Over the weekend, I asked the teacher for her home address, so I went to check it out and found out it's a studio apartment, and it had been empty for a few days." After Nian and Diana, this new deskmate was the third person to enter Wanda's world. That was why Wanda was so concerned. And Nian, knowing the deskmate's true identity, understood that Wanda's concern was understandable. After all, they have the same blood. Chapter 270 Great Era, The Ticket to the Future. Did the Polaris bus suddenly vanish? Nian's heart sank, his eyes etched with worry. It wasn't just because the other person was a relative of Wanda, the Scarlet Maid. They'd been through so much together, and that young, yet sophisticated, girl who had always carried the burden held a profound weight in his heart. And then there was the matter of Pietro's kidnapping. Clearly, certain forces, including Hydra, had been eyeing gifted beings like Lorna. It wasn't surprising that the boss's flawed abilities would be targeted. Alice, Zinnian called gravely. Alice's voice echoed from the living room appliances. Understood. Master, I'm already checking. Don't worry, Alice will find her soon, Zinnian said soothingly, stroking Wanda's smooth red hair, which was adorned with a white scarf. Wanda nodded, gently clasping Zinnian's large hands. After about 10 seconds, Alice replied, Master, I found a clue to Lorna's location. Tell me about it, Zinnian snapped his fingers. He sat on the living room sofa and naturally lifted the Crimson Maid's petite, adorable body, warming her legs on his lap. Scarlet Maid Wanda, overly concerned for her diskmate Lorna, didn't show her usual shyness. Like a doll, her hands covered the drooping skirt, her slender legs clad in white socks dangling quietly above the floor. Alice said, City surveillance confirms that Lorna left Washington on Wednesday evening. Where did she go? Zinnian frowned slightly. Although his boss, with his pride and arrogance, wouldn't share anything with a younger brother like him, her sudden departure from Washington was quite unusual. Alice said, she bought a ticket to Metropolis. Local roadside cameras in Metropolis also captured her this morning. Zinnian pondered. Metropolis's permanent resident hero is Superman. Not in the sense of superhuman, nor any other Kryptonian being. Rather, it's the Superman who first appeared on the world stage with pinnacle combat prowess, died and then resurrected, and was hailed as the god of the world. Superman. His brother-in-law. After Superman's resurrection, Metropolis became the safest city for its citizens, with crime rates practically plummeting. With a boss there shouldn't be any danger. But Zinnian still had a deeply ominous feeling. Is she still in Metropolis? Zinnian continued to ask. I'm not sure. 5 hours ago, she completely disappeared from Metropolis Port's surveillance, Alice replied slowly. However, judging by some of the footage we saw earlier, Lorna has been staying near Metropolis Port for the past few days. She's even bought some extra makeup, daily necessities, and seasickness medicine. Zinnian asked thoughtfully, you mean, she wants to go out to sea? According to the data, there's a 95% probability. Metropolis Port, how many ships left today? 1,268. Metropolis is a world-class port. Zinnian let out a slow breath, a slight headache building. This was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Wait? Zinnian thought for a moment, realizing he'd fallen into a misconception. Something that would cause the boss to leave Washington so uncharacteristically and head to the port to board a ship couldn't be just any ship. Is there a particular ship? Zinnian asked quickly. Alice replied quickly, there is one. The Grand Era. Grand Era. Zinnian was taken aback. He hadn't just heard of this ship, he was very familiar with it. 2 or 3 years ago, it had appeared frequently in newspapers and on television. Yes, it's the Grand Era. The AI, Alice, projected a 3-dimensional projection into the living room. Blue light formed a model of a giant cruise ship shaped like a giant whale, with 10 decks of cabins. The Grand Era, built 3 years ago by the Metropolitan Port Company, remains the world's largest cruise ship. Weighing 233,000 tons, its width is longer than the wingspan of the largest Boeing aircraft, and its length is 100 meters longer than the historic Titanic. It has 40 bars and 20 restaurants, accommodating 10,000 people, including the crew. Is the ship sailing today? Zinnian raised a brow. Alice replied, the Grand Era is hosting a massive costume party on board. Tickets were available yesterday. This afternoon, the ship will officially set sail before sunset, sailing a full week offshore before returning to Metropolitan Port. A costume party? Zinnian recalled Alice's mention of Lorna buying extra makeup supplies. That's for sure, that's the ship Lorna's taking. Zinnian was completely certain, but what made him even more puzzled was why Lorna would attend the costume party on that ship. Captain America Steve Rogers returned to his rented apartment in New York. As soon as he opened the door, he noticed something was wrong. The windows in the main living room were open. Because of his military habit, Steve always locked the doors and windows before leaving home, so Steve instinctively tiptoed, slowing his pace, and saw a dark figure step out of the bathroom. It was a tall, muscular black man wearing flight goggles and a flight suit. His metal backpack was integrated into his body. Sam, what are you doing here? Steve breathed a sigh of relief, then said in a grumpy tone. I missed you. Okay, less disgusting, let's get straight to the point. Sam Wilson shrugged, pulled 2 tickets from his pocket, and handed them to Captain America. Steve? What are these? Steve asked in surprise, seeing they were 2 boat tickets. Haven't you been asking me to secretly investigate the whereabouts of the Winter Soldier? Sam Wilson bared his white teeth. Did you find it? Steve's expression hardened. He already knew that the Winter Soldier was none other than Bucky, his good friend from World War II. Perhaps he'd been brainwashed into serving Hydra. Regardless, he had to see the Winter Soldier again. Sam Wilson gestured toward the ticket in his hand and purred, "So, there you have the answer." Avengers headquarters. The basement, where the archives and supercomputers were stored, seemed to be short-circuiting, with electricity and black smoke emanating from everywhere. Tony Stark, dressed in a suit and glasses, stood solemnly before the supercomputer. "Jarvis, you said someone broke in here last night while we were out and stole the Alliance's data." Jarvis quickly corrected him, "No, sir. No one broke in here. Our firewall was hacked by an outside code. Broke through the protective system Jarvis and he had set up?" Tony Stark frowned and asked, "What information did they steal?" "Jarvis, some of your steel armor design drawings." Tony Stark was speechless. His home was truly robbed. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271. All parties move together, aiming at the Great Era. "Okay, can you confirm the other party's IP address?" Tony Stark asked casually, not holding out much hope. After all, the chances of being able to break through his and Jarvis's system defenses and determine the other party's IP address were extremely slim. "Found it," the artificial intelligence Jarvis said quickly. "The other party's IP address is on a ship." In a civilized country nestled 10,000 meters beneath the sea, a gentlemanly man knelt on one knee before a silver throne and flattered, "Your Majesty, the source of the Atlantis Empire's technological leakage has been found." On the silver throne sat a woman wearing a golden crown and holding a golden trident. Her pink dress shone brilliantly in the reflection of the seawater, yet no one in the vast underwater palace dared to look her in the eye. "Who is the source?" A pleasant and commanding female voice rang out. Military advisor Vico stood up and replied, "It was the deceased Prince Orm. He once collaborated with human pirates, having them use submarines to attack your father, King Nereus, in an effort to provoke conflict between our underwater world and the land. Later, Prince Orm gifted one of the pirates with a new set of advanced underwater armor." The Empress on the throne of the Undersea Empire said softly, "Since he's dead, let's not dwell on it. But we must recover our technologically advanced underwater armor and prevent it from falling into the hands of outsiders." Her voice was melodious, yet possessed an aura of authority without anger. The golden artifact shone with a radiant light. "Yes." Vico nodded, as if remembering something, and hesitantly added, "There's one more thing. The former queen's third son, Prince Namor, recently left the Undersea Empire and has been secretly interacting with humans on land. He's currently on a ship on the land. Gotham, Wayne Manor. Butler Alpha stood at the entrance to the main hall. He looked at the tall man sitting motionless on the sofa, like a statue, his aged face filled with worry. The young master had been in this position for a few minutes, unchanged. Bruce Wayne's face was as gloomy as water. In his hands, he held a letter resembling an invitation, handwritten in English, to Batman. "Dear Bruce Wayne, I'm so relieved you haven't forgotten me after all these months. It doesn't matter who won last time. After all, we must have a true winner, right? Let's sit down at the gambling table and see who has the better cards. I sincerely invite you to join us at our feast, Lex Luthor." Inside this letter were 6 tickets. 6 was the original number of members in the Justice League. Bruce Wayne remained silent, finally putting the envelope down and standing up, clutching the 6 tickets. "Master, do you really have to go?" Butler Alpha said in a deep voice, "This is obviously a trap. There's no reason not to go." Bruce Wayne shook his head, his mind made up. "Even if I don't go, he'll use the entire ship to force me to go. He knows that if he uses trickery to deceive me, I'm likely not going to come aboard, so he's just sending me a direct invitation. It's an open conspiracy." Butler Alpha knew this. He sighed and asked, "Should we inform the 2 princes of this information?" Bruce Wayne pondered for a moment, then agreed, yes. A moment later, Butler Alfu said, Miss Prince has been contacted, but Master Prince can't. His phone number shows no signal. Metropolis Harbor. An ultra-large luxury ship anchored in the open offshore waters. The surrounding large cargo ships looked like children working before they even grew up. The sun, still high in the sky, was directly blocked by the ship's hull, casting a huge shadow on the docks of Metropolis Harbor. At this moment, a large number of passengers exclaimed in amazement, took out their phones to take photos, and eagerly boarded the deck. The ship started checking tickets and boarding this morning. Therefore, 90% of the passengers were already on board, and less than 10% were still boarding. On the stairs from the pier to the Great Era ship, the black-haired boy and the crimson lolly checked their tickets and boarded the ship. They each carried a simple, light backpack. Since the rules stated that pets were not allowed on board, Nian did not bring Xiao Wang with him. However, if necessary, he could use the space pendant to return home and bring Xiao Wang aboard. The goal of this trip. The main thing is to find the boss of Polaris and confirm her safety. The actual danger should not be too great, right? Maybe. Anyway, with the space pendant and Wanda's maid in hand, Nian can leave the ship at any time. There is no need to take the so-called 7-day journey. He has not yet fully boarded the ship. Alice's voice rang through Nian's headphones, Master. The network and communication signals here aren't working properly. It seems there's a special signal blocking device, making it difficult to receive outside information within the ship's range. Just as I thought, there's something wrong with this ship. Nian nodded, his face remaining calm. If everything was fine, why would the Polaris boss be on board? He's never been one for fun. We'll find Lorna as soon as possible, confirm her safety, and then we'll leave. Nian made up his mind. He had assumed the boss's green hair would be easily noticeable, making it easy to find. However, upon reaching the deck, Nian was stunned. On the ship's spacious, football field-sized deck alone, many passengers had already begun their costumes. Not to mention the green hair, there were over 100 people with colorful hair colors, and the outlandish costumes made it even harder to identify their true appearances. Passengers aboard, please return to your rooms. There are makeup supplies in your rooms, so you can put on your makeup before leaving. The crew member kindly offered. The sun was about to set, dusk shimmering in the west, and the rosy clouds reflected on the sea. The Great Era was about to stop checking tickets and set sail. At this moment, on an observation deck at the Metropolis Harbor. The ship's outer layer is covered with lead, so I can't see through it. He wore a blue battle suit with a red cape draped over his shoulders. A man with slightly curly bangs floated beside the observation deck and addressed the people there. The ship is about to depart. Should we stop it and get all the passengers off? Too late. Holding onto the side railing of the observation deck, Bruce Wayne gazed at the luxurious ship and said gravely, since he wrote that letter, he won't let you stop it before it even begins. He calculated the time. By the time we saw the letter, most of the passengers would have boarded, leaving us alone. He paused, then added, now, we can only choose whether to board or not to stop the ship. His left electronic eye glowed a faint red, and the semi-mechanized man asked in confusion, where did he get such a sophisticated signal blocking device? Even Apocalypse's technology is difficult to penetrate from outside the ship. The ship is about to depart. Should we board or not? One of the young men asked, munching on a high-calorie pizza with toppings. Board. Bruce Wayne said decisively, his thoughts remaining, but we need to leave one person outside. Board. Destination, the Grand Era cruise ship. Chapter 272. Wanda chooses gems. You are awesome. As the crimson sun sank below the horizon, the rosy glow faded, and night fell. Lights lit up across the Metropolis port area, and as the massive cruise ship's hull trembled slightly, everyone on board knew it had set sail. This ultra-luxury ship, with a capacity of over 10,000 people, was about to depart. At this moment, in double cabin number 626, on the 6th floor, Nian gazed out through the round glass window, gazing at the dusky coastal scenery. As the Grand Era cruise ship receded, it slowly departed the Metropolis port. Young Master, little Wanda approached from behind Nian, holding a red cloak and draping it over him. Put it on. Nian shook his head, draping the cloak over the girl's petite frame. After boarding the ship, Nian had a persistent sense of foreboding, perhaps due to his spider sense's keen sense of danger. This ultra-luxury cruise ship was likely to encounter trouble, and since he had a body of steel, he could handle any unexpected situation. So, he left the magic levitation cloak to Wanda. Little Wanda naturally knew Nian was concerned about her. Her doll-like face flushed slightly, and she immediately untied the red headscarf that held her hair, letting her soft crimson hair scatter across the room. "Young master, then, please wear this." Little Wanda puffed out her cheeks, a rare display of assertiveness, and spoke in an unquestionable tone. Nian nodded, and Wanda continued to tie the red headscarf around her wrist, forming a bow. "By the way, Mofu, take that out," Nian said, suddenly remembering something, pointing to Wanda's red cloak. As he finished speaking, the cloak swayed autonomously, even though there was no wind in the cabin. Two small storage pockets materialized on either side. The Mofu cloak naturally couldn't store unlimited items like the devouring dimension, but it could still secretly store some important small items, such as. Nian stepped forward and reached into each of its storage pockets. Little Wanda froze for a moment. This intimate, close position felt like the master hugging her from the front, and her heart was pounding like a rabbit. Before she could think, Nian fumbled around, pulling out a silver necklace from each pocket. "Master, is this the special item that Teacher Ancient One spoke of?" Wanda's clear, pale red eyes reflected the silver necklaces, each of which was almost identical in design, save for a slightly different pendant. "Yes, I'm wearing a special necklace. These two represent the mind and reality," Nian said curiously, holding a necklace pendant in each hand. He raised his hand to show the Scarlet Maid, whispering, "Choose one of these to be your magical weapon." Of course, as Ancient One would say, once you make your choice, you become the guardian of the gem. "Is it appropriate to entrust such an important item to me?" Wanda's cute eyes widened, looking a little bewildered. "Actually, it's nothing important. I originally wanted to give them all to the Ancient One, but she didn't want them either. Since I already have the special necklace, I had to find someone to keep the other artifacts." Nian shrugged, looked at Wanda, and said with a smile, "However, since you are recognized by both the Ancient One and I, you are naturally qualified to keep one of the gems." He winked. "Wanda, you are a magical genius, amazing. Believe in yourself." "Master, you praise me so much, I'd be proud," Wanda muttered, lowering her head in embarrassment. "It's okay to be proud, you totally deserve it." Nian's lips curled up, gazing at the crimson-haired girl in front of him. His voice became louder. "Wanda, you will definitely be one of the finest women in the world. I got a great deal by rescuing you from the ruins. Pietro once said his sister was amazing. I choose." Wanda blushed, worried that the young master would continue, so she grabbed the pendant of one of the necklaces without hesitation. "Are you sure you want this?" A hint of surprise flashed in Nian's eyes. He had only mentioned the two necklaces, representing the mind and reality, but he hadn't specified which one. He'd assumed Wanda would choose the other necklace, but unexpectedly. Was it possible that Wanda was more connected to the Infinity Stones with their current attributes? "Is this necklace not okay?" Wanda tilted her head curiously. "Yes." Nian put the other necklace away and placed the chosen one around Wanda's neck. "Pick the one you feel is best. You take good care of the necklace you've chosen." After parting ways with Wanda, they finished their makeup and makeup. As they sailed away from the inland sea, the ship's swaying cabin was barely perceptible. Nian asked into his phone, "Alice, how's it going? Can we hack into the ship's network? We can't communicate with the satellites or the supercomputer, so the processing speed has been greatly reduced. A complete invasion would take at least 6 hours, but the ship's defenses would still detect it." Alice, known for her typically emotionless intelligence, spoke with a slightly heavier tone this time. "The ship's network's defenses are far superior to Earth's. Are there any individuals aboard who possess cutting-edge intelligence?" Nian pondered. He had never believed that Alice, a technologically advanced and computationally advanced being from a parallel dimension, was untouchable in the realm of intelligence. Years ago, Iron Man Tony Stark was revealed to possess an artificial intelligence named Jarvis. Cyborg, a member of the Justice League, was also considered a semi-cutting-edge intelligence due to his body being transformed by the Mother Box from Apocalypse. In that case, we can only explore the party outside. Nian gestured to Wanda, then stood up and walked towards the door. "There's no point staying here. Let's go out for a walk. Maybe we'll run into each other around the corner." Leaving the room, They arrived at a public entertainment area near the 6th floor cabin. Xinian's mouth twitched slightly as he watched the many passengers pass by. A masked man in a black batsuit was chatting up a woman wearing a t-shirt with Iron Man's signature energy light on the chest. A woman dressed in a Captain America uniform was embracing her boyfriend in a female military uniform. But that wasn't the point. The key point was that, just passing through the 6th floor cabin corridor, Xinian saw 11 Batmans, 13 Iron Men, and 8 Captain Americas. With superheroes already incredibly popular outside, the costume party on the ship had become a cosplay party for superheroes. Some people's makeup and costumes were incredibly realistic. It seemed like even if a real person sneaked in, they'd be hard to recognize, right? Chapter 273: The encounter between the Avengers and the Justice League. On the Grand Era, on the 5th deck of the ship, in the public corridor, a young, non-mainstream man in clown makeup, his eyes lit up as he gazed at the tall man approaching, his black batsuit perfectly bolstered. "Hey, men, your costume and uniform look really nice. You must have spent a lot of money on it. Can we take a picture together?" The non-mainstream man approached enthusiastically. "Sorry, I don't want to be photographed," the man in the black batsuit shook his head sternly. "It's that cool and domineering aura, very superhero-like. You're the best Batman cosplay I've seen so far," the non-mainstream man exclaimed, giving a thumbs up. He then gestured at his heavy makeup, his hair dyed a cheap green, and his red-painted mouth, grinning. "Do you know who I'm cosplaying? I hate you." The man in the black batsuit glanced at him and strode onward. "Hey, wait a minute. Let's take a picture." Ugh. The non-mainstream youth tried to catch up, but suddenly felt his legs go numb, making it difficult to move forward. "Strange, have I walked too much today?" The green-haired non-mainstream youth rubbed his thigh, and the numbness quickly disappeared. But when he continued to explore, the man in the black batsuit had already disappeared. "One person per floor, let's check the situation separately." At the corner of the corridor, the real Batman Bruce Wayne spoke into the portable communicator. On the 8th floor, Barry Allen, the Flash, dressed in a crimson suit with a lightning bolt logo on the chest, shyly but friendly posed for photos with several female passengers. Then he lowered his head and covered his mouth, speaking quickly. "I have to say, this dress-up event on the ship is very convenient for us. This is my first time walking around in public in a suit without attracting too much attention." 1st floor cabin. Aquaman Arthur Curry, his hair disheveled, shirtless, and wearing only jeans, walked around. His imposing physique and toned abs caught the attention of many young women. Passing by the bar, he instinctively sat down on a chair, casually taking a bottle of wine from the bartender, and replied, "Isn't that the norm?" The Justice League's team chat remained silent for a moment. Barry Allen, the Flash, said sheepishly, "Sorry, I forgot you don't have a suit. Everyone, be on your guard. The mastermind behind this is clearly doing this on purpose, to get us aboard the ship in this disguise." Batman Bruce Wayne's eyes gleamed with wisdom as he spoke gravely. "Even so, if we act together, we'll still be easily recognized by the passengers. So, our splitting up must have been premeditated." Now, on the 7th floor, Cyborg Victor Stone said, "I'm trying to hack into the ship's network system." He wore a long-sleeved sweatshirt, tightly covering his torso, revealing only a fraction of his mechanized, black face. His left eye flickered red as he gazed at the passengers passing by, oblivious to his strange appearance. A wave of emotion washed over him. Inside the 5th floor cabin. "Contact us immediately if anything happens," Bruce Wayne muttered in a deep voice. Suddenly, he noticed a crowd of people gathered around a dandy man in a suit in the public entertainment area ahead. "Are you really Stark?" "Of course. With someone as handsome as me, it'd be hard for any imposter to impersonate me." Tony Stark, without a hint of pretense, spread his hands and spoke proudly to the female passenger. As if sensing her gaze, Tony Stark raised his head and met Bruce Wayne's gaze, who had stopped nearby. On the 3rd floor, in a cafe overlooking the sea, a red-haired woman, dressed in a simple trench coat and casual pants, sat alone in a corner, her chin resting on her hand as she stared blankly out the window at the night sea. Her stunning profile and graceful figure resembled an artistic silhouette. "Excuse me, can I sit here?" a gentle female voice called from the side. Mara glanced up at the voice and saw a beautiful woman standing next to her, dressed in a professional human dress. Even from her underwater perspective, she was strikingly beautiful, wearing delicate, light makeup and exuding a mature, intellectual demeanor. Opposites do attract, but attractive people of the same sex also tend to flock together. Sure, Mara nodded gently. Thank you. Susan smiled a formal and charming smile, gently stroking the hem of her suit skirt as she sat upright in the chair in front of Mara. She explained softly, I know I'll have to wear makeup to act on the ship, but I haven't decided on an outfit yet. All the clothes I found at home are professional attire, so I'm going to skip it. Susan paused, then said gently, just now, I saw from a distance that you weren't wearing any makeup, so I thought I'd come sit here. Mara glanced down at her land-human attire and smiled faintly. I am. Huh? Susan's mouth dropped open, a little confused. Sixth deck. As Nian dragged Wanda around the common areas of the cabin, he increasingly felt that finding Lorna on board would be a challenge. Passengers were all dressed up in various costumes, often wearing uniforms and masks. This made the search even more difficult. Furthermore, this cruise ship was simply too big. Nian had been walking Wanda around for half an hour, and they still hadn't been able to fully explore the public areas of the sixth deck. And this wreck had 10 decks of cabins. As Nian and Wanda were entering the third bar area, a slightly tipsy, burly man looked at him, his eyes wide with shock, and exclaimed, Silver-haired goddess. Nian stumbled and nearly fell to the ground. Look carefully. I'm Dante. Do you know the Dante from Devil May Cry? Nian retorted with a sullen face, pointing to his silver hair and the dark red windbreaker he was wearing. He was stunned again. He knew the burly man before him. Isn't it Instructor Roth from the class? Oh, not the silver-haired goddess. Instructor Roth was drunk, he didn't recognize Nian, and continued to drink alone on the table. This guy doesn't look like a teacher at all. Nian sighed secretly, thinking that Instructor Roth was usually very caring towards him, so he pulled Wanda to sit at another table not far away to look after them temporarily. Wanda played the role of Little Red Riding Hood in the fairy tale. In fact, she didn't need to put on much makeup, just a red cloak and a small red hood. The cute and adorable little Wanda was simply Little Red Riding Hood herself. Nian had just ordered a glass of red wine and orange juice when a one-eyed old man came with a bottle of wine and sat down casually opposite him and Wanda at the table. Little guy, can I sit here for a while? Asked the one-eyed old man. Since you're already sitting down, I can't chase you away. Respecting the elderly and loving the young is a fine tradition. Nian spread his hands and said, Respected elder? Haha, do you know who I am? The one-eyed old man tilted his head back and took a sip of liquor. His hair and stubble were grayed by time, but his resolute face showed little signs of aging. He wore a single eye patch over his right eye like a pirate, and wore a full set of red and black metal battle armor, carrying 2 authentic-looking samurai swords on his back. Iron Man, cosplay? Nian asked seriously. I don't like this joke, Deathstroke replied seriously. Chapter 274, Queen Mara of the Sea and Invisible Woman Susan. The Grand Mara, third deck. The luxurious and stylish cafe was silent, soft music echoing throughout. The super cruise ship was so stable that one couldn't even notice it was moving. Susan couldn't help but glance up at Mara, who was sitting close up in front. Her vibrant red hair cascaded down her shoulders like a silky, languid cascade, her exposed, white skin like the pearls within a seashell. Her flawless, unmade-up face was flawless. Her tall, slender figure was undoubtedly a perfect hanger for clothes, so even in an ordinary jacket and casual pants, it couldn't conceal her natural, ethereal beauty. She was like a mermaid from the sea, her voice possessing an ethereal aura that was captivating. You're so beautiful, Susan exclaimed, looking at her. Especially your skin, it's so beautiful, so fair and radiant. Mara had heard countless compliments recently in the Undersea Empire, but this was the first time she'd heard someone compliment her appearance like Susan did, and she was slightly startled. Susan glanced at her wrist with a hint of disdain, dejectedly saying, Unlike me, I'm too tanned from the sun. Mara smiled faintly and said sincerely, No, you clearly have a very healthy complexion. It wasn't a high-tech response at all. Mara saw that Susan's light tan skin, paired with her slim figure, was truly beautiful, something unique to land dwellers, rarely seen in the underwater world where sunlight barely reaches. Thank you. Susan smiled and extended her hand. My name is Susan, and I'm from Los Angeles. Nice to meet you. You can call me Mara. Mara gently grasped Susan's hand, paused briefly, and said, From the sea. The sea? An island? That's great. Susan suddenly realized, thinking that perhaps only a place like an island could produce such a naturally flawless beauty. Mara nodded lightly, not explaining further. After this brief exchange, the atmosphere between Susan and Mara became much more harmonious. Perhaps it was because, as strangers, they didn't have to worry about everyday matters or their identities, allowing them to speak openly and freely. At least, Susan and Mara felt relaxed and happy together. The same was true for Mara. After she took that position, almost no one in the Undersea Empire could speak to her on an equal footing. Mara looked at Susan, her beautiful smile, and suddenly asked curiously, "You're on this boat alone? Don't you have a partner or friends?" Susan's smile faltered, a pang of pain in her heart. Susan shrugged, replying, "It's not that I don't have any friends. In fact, a few wanted to come with me. But they were so annoying, so I left them and gave myself a break to relax. Partner or something, not yet." Susan's eyes flickered as if remembering something, and she looked up at Mara. "Mara, how about you?" "No," Mara shook her head. "No friends, no partner." Susan sensed a sense of loneliness from Mara, as if she could vaguely picture her standing on a deserted island, surrounded by the sea. She was about to say something to comfort her. Mara continued, "But I have someone I like. His name is Nian," Mara said seriously, smiling. Susan felt a little ashamed of herself, sensing the gap between her and Mara. The brilliance in her beautiful eyes dimmed slightly. "You have someone you like too, right, Susan?" Mara said, gazing at her. Susan nodded slightly, then said helplessly, "But I don't even know his real name." "You don't even know his name?" Mara asked, surprised. "Then what kind of person is he?" "Well," Susan opened her mouth, unsure how to describe him. She couldn't say he was a boy several years younger than her, could she? Would Mara think she was a pervert? Inside the bar on the 6th floor. "Boy, you're not even an adult yet, ordering drinks." "Old man, you're so old, and you're still drinking." The one-eyed old man and the black-haired boy exchanged barbs, drawing a burst of laughter from the blushing young girl next to them. After both Deathstroke and Nian cast their eyes at her, little Wanda quickly covered her mouth, her ears drooping like little Red Riding Hoods. "She's my maid," Nian said openly, introducing Wanda, who was sitting next to him. Deathstroke glanced at her briefly with his left eye, tilted his head back to take a sip of wine, and commented, "She's a beauty, you're lucky, boy." "Of course," Nian said confidently. Wanda's face was as rosy as an apple. "Old man, are you still playing dress-up games at such an old age?" Nian looked at Deathstroke's armor and samurai sword and said casually, "This is not dress-up." Deathstroke shook his head and said, "This is work uniforms, you know? You, a kid who hasn't even started working yet, naturally wouldn't understand." "That's even worse," Nian said bluntly. "You're old, and you still have to work." Deathstroke was speechless for a moment. No one had ever dared to call him old, but today this kid said it more than 3 times. Nian raised his wine glass, clinking it against a bottle in Deathstroke's hand. He took a sip and said, "Old man, have you ever thought about retiring? To live a good life with your family?" "Retirement, family." Deathstroke remained silent. "How about this?" Nian seemed to have a thought and smiled, "Old man, I'll hire you. How about you come and work for me? Bodyguards, drivers, whatever. You can definitely bring your family along too. Kid." Deathstroke narrowed his one eye and said cheerfully, "Do you know how much it would cost to hire me?" Nian raised a finger and said, "How about $1 million a day, a long-term contract starting in a year?" "This isn't a game, kid." Deathstroke chuckled. "We can negotiate the price." Nian spread his hands. Deathstroke said dismissively, "Let's talk about it when you're really making that much money." He left the bottle behind, stood up, and left, saying, "Kid, hide in your room for a while. Maybe there's a chance you can get off the ship." He watched the one-eyed old man disappear into the crowd at the bar. Nian exhaled. "Master, is that the mercenary Deathstroke that Alice mentioned?" Wanda whispered. "Yes." Nian patted Wanda's head and said, "A poor old man." "Poor?" Wanda wasn't afraid, just blinked in confusion. "Yes." Nian nodded. Just now, when he mentioned his family, Deathstroke's eyes, which had been expressionless, fluttered for a moment, and his spider sense picked up on it. Clearly, Deathstroke, The industry's top mercenary assassin was just an old man who couldn't be reunited with his family. Chapter 275 The World's Strongest Heroes and Villains. The moment he saw Deathstroke appear on the ship, Nian knew something was seriously wrong. According to the information his schoolmate Kara had gathered, Deathstroke had apparently reached a partnership with Lex Luthor. Deathstroke's presence here meant Lex Luthor was also on board. In other words, the ship's voyage, the cosplay event, and the highly secure safety systems on board were all orchestrated by Lex Luthor and his team. The boss of Polaris was likely aboard this cruise ship because of Lex Luthor. We must find the boss as soon as possible. Fortunately, I have a trick up my sleeve. Nian shook his clothes. Suddenly, dozens of transparent, hard-to-see jellyfish spheres, like glass balls, bounced from under his table and fell all around him. These jellyfish spheres attached themselves to passengers entering and leaving the bar. Since the artificial intelligence was blocked and unable to function, they would resort to human labor. Guanluo, it's up to you, Nian thought. Guanluo, wait for my good news. The signal was disrupted, but it didn't affect telepathic communication. With Guanluo at the center of the action, dozens of transparent jellyfish spheres began to slowly spread across the 6th-floor cabin, aided by the passing crew and passengers. One of the jellyfish spheres landed on the intoxicated instructor Roth. Another small jellyfish sphere, shifting between passengers, followed Deathstroke at a distance. Although the jellyfish spheres appeared completely transparent under the light and were tiny, they were barely noticeable even up close. However, some characters with psychic energy perception or highly sensitive 5 senses would still detect their presence. If they stuck directly to Deathstroke, there was a chance they would be detected, so they could only follow from a distance. From the 6th-floor cabin where Nian was, down 1 floor. In the 5th-floor cabin, a demure playboy wearing black-framed glasses and a tall man in a black batsuit sat by a handrail where the sea breeze could reach. The wind and waves were enough to drown out their conversation. As the heads of the world's leading manufacturing industry and the world's most influential Jebel, respectively, despite the media and public daily comparisons between them, who's richer, whose industry is the strongest, and so on, this was truly their first real-life meeting. So, do you always dress like this when you go out? Tony Stark couldn't help but glance at Batman and teased. The Avengers and the Justice League had naturally studied each other and knew some of each other's secrets. When I'm needed, I dress like this, Bruce Wayne said gravely. Do you know anything about this ship? Tony Stark said, there's a thief on this ship who stole some Stark Industries files, and I'm here to catch him. Lex Luthor, Batman said directly. I see. Tony Stark narrowed his eyes slightly. Both were incredibly intelligent, and between intelligent people, there was no need for excessive conversation. This should be your Justice League's business, but ours is involved this time too. Tony Stark pondered for a moment, then spread his hands. How about a little socializing, cooperation? Batman pondered. Although he didn't want to work with a strange alliance, there really wasn't a better option right now. On the same ship, not cooperating would only lead to more chaos, and their goals were the same. Bruce Wayne said solemnly, okay, just for this one time on the ship. There are 5 of us. How about you? Tony Stark asked curiously. 6, Bruce Wayne replied quickly. Grandira, the 10th deck. Gwen. Kara. 2 exclamations echoed from the corner of an empty cabin. One of them was a dark blonde girl wearing a blue battlesuit and a red cape. A distinctive S-shaped totem symbol adorned her well-developed chest. The other girl wore a skin-tight black and white Spider-Woman costume from the early days, complete with a hood and green boots. Her graceful, lithe figure was revealed from head to toe. Thanks to their time together, the two had become incredibly familiar, instantly recognizing each other as the real person portraying their counterparts. Senior, why are you here? Supergirl Kara asked in surprise. I should be asking you that. Spider-Woman Gwen blinked. Someone's hacked into the Avengers headquarters database. Mr. Stark and I came here. It seems our goal might be the same. Kara pondered, then suddenly asked, did you contact Senior before boarding the ship? No, what's wrong? Gwen looked at her in confusion. Mr. Wayne said he couldn't reach him. After we boarded the ship, we discovered the outside world was blocked. Kara said solemnly, Mr. Wayne suspects Senior is also on board. What did you say? Gwen was stunned. Meanwhile, beyond the Grand Era cruise ship, The night sky rose 1,000 meters above. A red cape fluttered in the moonlight. Superman Clark flew through the air, moving at almost the same speed as the cruise ship. He murmured, still moving, "We've already entered the Atlantic Ocean." The night deepened. Every floor of the Grand Air Cruise, every public area, bar, and restaurant, was bustling with activity. People dressed in various costumes, superheroes and villains, gathered together, oblivious to the potential danger. Somewhere on the sixth deck, in the work area accessible only to crew members, Deathstroke, reeking of alcohol but not intoxicated, entered. A woman in a diamond-strap dress leaned against the doorway, waiting for him. "Why are you here so late?" the Diamond Woman asked coldly. "I just took a look outside." "How is it going?" "Where's Batman?" Deathstroke's remaining left eye flashed with a cold light, and a fierce aura he hadn't previously possessed surged from him. The Diamond Woman was about to respond when her brows suddenly raised and she looked behind Deathstroke. "Who is it?" A wave of mental power swept through the empty cabin corridor. No one responded. "What did you find?" Deathstroke didn't think anyone could follow him. "I felt a slight mental fluctuation, but it disappeared in a flash. Maybe it was my illusion." The Diamond Woman shook her head, handed him a hood, and said indifferently, "Your target is on the next floor." Deathstroke put on a red and black hood with only one eye socket. Now, his whole body was wrapped in red and black armor. Carrying his samurai sword like a cold-killing machine, he turned around and went down to the fifth-floor cabin. The time came to 8 o'clock in the evening. The music of the banquet on the ship suddenly turned off, and a man's voice sounded simultaneously in the cabins from the 1st to the 10th floor. "Good evening. Welcome to my grand era, the superheroes and villains of this world." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.